Hello and welcome.
This is Editor's Note number 88.
You were about to say something.
I was about to read the chat again because we were stopped. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, everybody.
What's up today?
What's up
How
today?
is everyone?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. We had a bunch of nonsense
Yes.
YouTube talk and a bunch of nonsense horse talk before
Yeah.
we started this.
We got started
We've
early.
started now.
We started
moved on from
recording. We started filming. We went live early. And we are now 20 minutes past the hour.
Mm-hmm.
And actually recording.
Yeah. We got quite the show ahead for you today.
Yeah.
Quite the show indeed.
Yeah.
How is everybody?
So you have quite the show. What are we doing in today's show?
We're just doing a normal show.
Okay.
I'm just trying to pump it up.
Oh man, the chat has Valentine's in it. There's an absolute zero one that says you're cooler than cool. There's an
my god,
an alpha one that says I've
here.
been hunting for someone like you. Oh,
We got ambuscade. You can see right through me.
Yeah.
You see right through me.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah. I'm over the moon for you, Baron Blade.
guys, help! I'm trapped in a greeting card. I mean, the person who gave you this really likes you.
That's good. That's good. Who made these? Dr. B. Dr. B's posting
Dr.
them.
B, I think. Yeah.
Credit. Okay. All right. Okay. So
You're
Elizabeth
my hero with
and
legacy.
Bart KF and Clue Drew and Amelia Ryans and Dr. B worked together to make these amazing Valentines. I love them all.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, you're my good luck charm
that's
with
cute.
expatriate and setback.
That's
back
cute.
to back.
Aww. My heart races for you with Tachyon carrying somebody. I don't know who that is. Could be anybody.
it's just some lady.
Just some lady. They're friends. I think they're roommates.
I think they're roommates. Yeah.
Roommates, yeah.
All right.
Adam, we got a lot to get through today.
We do. We had way too many letters, apparently, right?
Oh, yeah. It just happened though. It was not like. Here's the thing. You and I were talking before we went live about how recently we feel like our episodes have been like our storytelling has been good. Like that we've been doing a good job.
I feel pretty confident with the last few. Yeah,
at telling the stories. I'm just like, yeah, it feels good. Like the recent history work we've done has been excellent, and I feel this is reflected in our listenership engagement.
in her letter volume.
Yeah. Our letter volume these days, I used to allot about an hour's time before we went live, or before I pinged you I would ping you on Slack and be like, okay, ready to go. And I'd usually allot an hour's worth of work before that. And these days it's closer to 90 minutes of letter catch-up time.
That's 1.5 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you're good at math.
50% more letters.
Yeah, by volume.
Astonishing. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm glad everybody seems to like this stuff. So
yeah, and we've got a lot of letters in the chat as well. So
I wouldn't say that I would stop doing it, but it would take it. It's nice to do it and have someone like it.
Yeah.
Right. I would still do it just for us, but doing it for you is better.
That's right. Yeah.
You out there.
Yeah. Not me. Again.
No, not you. Not you. Stop trying to take the credit for their love.
I was specifically not.
All right. I want to talk about the upcoming schedule.
I would love to talk about the upcoming schedule.
Let's do that.
Adam, to tell you about the upcoming schedule, before we even talk about the schedule itself, I got to talk to you about the voting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you said you were going to tell me about the voting.
And lo, I am. Everything that we put up for voting this time got lots of votes.
Really? Everything?
Everything got lots of votes.
Wow, okay.
The number one topic had one more vote than the number two topic, which had one more vote than the number three topic.
Wow.
And then there were two topics that were both one vote shy of being tied for number three. So
really?
Half of the topics we put up were all within 4 votes of each other. But maybe more astonishing, the topic that got the fewest votes, how many fewer votes do you think that it had than the topic that got the very most votes?
20.
8.
8. Wow, that's
8.
close.
Everything was in just a
Boy,
single
that's
digit
anybody's
spread.
game, even up to the finish line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So great job, topic writers, topic submitters at submitting topics that people want to hear about, because it was all right there. So that's pretty cool. Feels good, man.
Yeah.
Feels good, man. So speaking of which, they're going to be going in Adam, here's the fun part. They're going in ascending order. The first episode we're doing is third place, which means the last episode we're doing in March was the first place in vote. Yeah, you're making a face. This is good radio.
What? Okay.
All right. Yeah. You know exactly about how much of a margin that was first, but it was first.
All right.
But anyway,
okay.
First, the third place voted episode we're going to talk about on Tuesday, March 4th, which is going to be episode 311. It's not going to be about amber being the color of my energy at all. Nope. It's going to be a writer's room about Prime Wardens versus the Court of Blood.
All right. That one makes sense.
Yeah.
Tuesday, March 11th, episode 312, writer's room, Calypso versus Ra. Okay. Makes a degree of sense also. I haven't ever told a Calypso story. Great.
Tuesday, March 18th, editor's note number 89. It's not editor's note number 90, which will be the following month, which will be the science editor's note. You write in your science stuff. We go, science. And then you correct us about how we're wrong. It's going to be great.
Great. Yeah. I love being corrected.
Good. That's why we're friends.
And then finally, Tuesday, March 25th, episode 313, the upset of the year, I feel like.
You were expecting this to get no votes.
I was expecting this to get 0 votes. Writer's Room, a Bugbear story.
That's right. Episode 313,
all right.
a Bugbear story. That's what we're doing.
That's number 1?
Number 1.
Wow.
By 1 vote. But number 2 was by 1 vote. Number 3 was by 1 vote.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just all in there.
Yeah, I did not think that anyone cared about Bugbear at all.
Well, we're wrong.
Well, all right. All right. The voice of the people has spoken. And so we must perform it.
Yeah.
I wish there were a saying for that.
Yeah. Too bad there's not.
Yep.
Ryan in the chat says Bugbear and Night Snake secret lovers.
Oh my God.
You never know. You'll have to find out. It's into March.
You never know.
Could be anything.
They're both an adjective animal situation. I mean, a noun animal. A noun as an adjective animal situation. This is the snake of the night and the bear of the bugs.
The snake of the night and the bear of the bugs. Yeah, that's the thing. People don't know that Bugbear, the character in Scionic Comics Bugbear, is actually a bear made of bugs.
Yeah.
Hence the
name.
name.
An insectoid conglomeration
in
the shape of a bear.
Comes up a lot, turns out.
All right. Let's start letters, and then we can go to the chat, and then we'll come back to the letters, and then we'll go to the chat again.
You've described an editor's note.
Yeah. Well, for those who have not been here before.
Welcome.
We've
had some new Patreon folks recently.
We have.
And we are excited to have you on.
Let's do it.
Christopher and Adam reading letters to you. Christopher and Adam.
So, Adam, historically,
yes,
the first section that we do in an editor's note, and by historically, I mean in like recent history.
Yeah.
And by recent history, I mean like the last 2 or 3 years.
5 years.
Has been lingering oblivion letters.
Right.
However, I refuse. I refuse to do that today. Today is Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. We didn't have any shipping or romance or anything episodes voted in this month. People saw those in the voting and went, no, we don't want that. We don't care that's what February is. We're going to talk about Knife No Punch, and we're going to talk about the Golden Age, but modernly, and we're going to talk about...
Great, I love that one.
Scions. Oh, yeah, no, it's great episodes, right? Happy with them. But no love is in the air.
No love.
And so, Adam, I've
Everyone
collected
hates
for
love.
you love-related letters.
Nice.
I'm going to be... I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest, Adam.
Yeah.
It was a stretch. Like the first one is about...
You thought you escaped it, though.
Yeah.
You don't escape it.
No.
We will force this on you.
Months have themes. January is the beginning of the year. February is love. March is one of those whatever months. April is April Fool's. May is Adam's birthday. June is the beginning of summer. July is the month before Gen Con. August is Gen Con. September is the month before spooky months. October, November is spooky.
It's
December
a month after
is holidays.
Let's see. Jokes in 3. Yeah.
Make a pattern, break a pattern.
All right.
Anyway, first letter today is from David, who writes, Hi, Christopher and Adam. I've been playing Sentinels of the Multiverse for like a decade now, but I've only recently started listening to the podcast. I'm loving it so far. Learning the lore behind my favorite characters and card arts is so much fun. However, having played the game for so long without any of this lore information, I have some misapprehensions regarding some of the underlying story of the game. I'm glad to be corrected, of course, but sometimes these misunderstandings lead to some interesting ideas. I'd like to hear your thoughts on 2 of them in particular.
Okay.
First, while examining Tachyon's card backs from the Definitive Edition, I noticed a panel showing her, Tachyon, in a romantic moment with another woman. Having listened to the podcast, I'm reasonably certain this is Dana Bertrand, her canonical partner, but when I first saw it, I thought the woman was actually Maya Montgomery, a ship I immediately fell in love with. Putting Dana aside for a moment, how dare you? Putting Dana aside for a moment, how likely do you think a relationship between Tachyon and the Wraith would be? How do you think it would work out? All right. Ignoring the long history of Dana Bertrand, a longer-standing continuity character in Sentinel Comics than most heroes.
Yes. That's true.
a relationship between Tachyon and Wraith, I think, would be bad.
Yeah, I think it'd be awful. I don't think it's likely at all.
They have a personality mismatch.
Yeah.
They do have an age mismatch, which matters less in comics, but they do.
They do it first, and then by now they kind of don't.
No, Tachyon is still at least a decade older.
But who cares at this age?
No, I get you. I get you. But she's like, I care because Wraith's in her 20s. But if we're talking about by now, if you're talking about Oblivion time / RPG time, Wraith's in her 20s, Tachyon's in her 40s. Absolutely not.
All right.
Somebody in their 40s shouldn't date somebody in their 20s. That's my stance.
I think that Wraith is over 30 in Oblivion times, but
she's not.
Really?
No, she's not. She's in her 20s. She's maybe 30 at the oldest by the time we get to RPG timeline. But she's in her 20s by Oblivion.
Okay.
Yeah. I
don't know. It's never stated. Any of this is never stated. I don't think of Tachyon in her 40s either but
some of it is stated in a few places actually.
Well, okay. All right.
Just that's not a correct statement.
I don't feel it's ever stated in comics. I don't feel like that's the case.
People are going to get these sort of questions are going to come up. I think it's not stated in a on the page way, but in letters pages and in so this character and this character.
Right, but letters pages and guides to the universe,
right.
Those things are cannot be really considered canon.
Right, because they get revised every 2
they
years.
All the
new
time.
One,
it's always right. So Tachyon might be 45 now and she might be 35 next week. So
sure.
That's just how comic book ages work. I don't think age is a reason to not let ships go in comic books.
Yeah,
because it's just so nebulous and not true.
And I would say that the age issue with Tachyon and Wraith, the lowest of the issues.
That's the lowest. Yeah, that's the least. That's the least thing.
That's not the problem. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So anyway. So how do we think it would work out? Yeah, not good. And also, I'm not down to putting aside Dana. Dana Bertrand's an important character. She's one of my favorite of the various supporting cast characters.
Yeah, she's cool.
All right, number 2. For a long time, I thought Young Legacy as a pretty darn young, 16 or 17.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah. She was a child forever.
She has aged the most on page of anyone.
Yes, but also she's stayed...
Because we saw her as a baby, and then we've seen her as she's an adult now.
It just took her half a century to age 15 years.
Right.
But she did age, which is more than some. According to recent mentions of the young Iron Legacy that started all my gears turning at once, though you made the case that she would be more of an anti-hero, I feel like a super-powered teen girl would make a heck of a villain. Yeah. Note the matriarch.
Yeah.
Stereotypically, teenagers have a strong save-the-world streak and believe they know better than everyone around them. Given someone like that the power to actually back up their attitude, you have a recipe for disaster. Do you think there's a place in the multiverse for an actually evil young Iron Legacy? If so, what do you think she would look like as a villain? Yeah, I mean, somewhere in some reality, there is an actually evil young Legacy. I don't know that I would do it young Iron Legacy. I would do it more that, her dad is, the most staunch but rather strict of legacies. And so she... in her rebellion,
lashing out. Yeah.
That's her villain name. Lash Out. That's not it. It's not. No. It's not it.
No, that's a decent name. Just not.
That's not for. Doesn't fit the character. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. The letter concludes. Thanks so much, and keep up the great work. Thank you for your letter, David. Thank you for doing a letter that was close enough about shipping that I could include it in this Valentine's segment.
All right. Lady writes, hello again, gentlemen. This is the third letter of my ketchup bonanza. This time there isn't a theme apart from queerness. So let's open the grab bag. Number 1, is Secret Lads a slang for closeted trans guy in the metaverse? It's saved for Secret Lads.
Secret Lads.
I don't know. That's like kind of borders on slur to me.
Yeah,
like,
I don't love.
so I don't love that. Yeah,
I love the question, but no is the answer.
Yeah, right. Yeah. 2, which character is the queer icon of Sentinel Comics characters among fans? Tachyon being a high-profile hero, it is probably her, but I can see Tempest maybe being popular among NB people. I mean, it's definitely Tachyon.
It's definitely Tachyon. Like, sure, I could see what you're talking about with Tempest, and then like Argent Adept is canonically Ace, and there's that, and then later you get Dr. Medico, but it's Tachyon. Like, it's Tachyon.
It's Tachyon
by a mile. Yeah. Tachyon's good at winning races.
Yeah. Number 3, you said that the Court of Blood is an all-woman group, so I have to ask, how sapphic is the Court of Blood? With a lot of women living under the same roof for centuries, there must have been some gay escapades between some of the ladies. For the court's sake, I hope there hasn't been any major lovers' quarrels. I imagine it's quite messy when both parties are immortal and live under the same roof.
Counts for the Valentine's episode.
Yeah, it does count. That's what gets it in.
That's what gets it in there. I saw the word sapphic, I'm like, Valentine's episode. Absolutely. There's romance within the Court of Blood. I feel like
I think that the lovers' quarrels don't happen because Bathory is like, no, we keep this tight. Like
the lovers' quarrels that happen are like, there's a spat and there's like,
yeah, no, not knock it down, lock it up,
decorum,
knock it off, lock it up. Yeah, it's all like
knock it down.
I get the impression that they all kind of live in fear of her to a degree.
For sure, they get their cushy vampire life,
right? As
long as they toe the line,
right? So like, and I don't think that Blood Countess stands for drama. She's not. She's like, I'm not allowing inter-vampire drama to happen.
Even though she's like super, she loves drama.
She loves it for herself. She's not.
Right.
She doesn't tolerate.
She doesn't like being upstaged.
Underlings.
She doesn't want to be upstaged.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
She's like, because she's so dramatic in the way that she is.
Yeah.
Her whole je ne sais quoi, which is French for I don't know what. Like she is a messy drama person, but she's like, oh no, this is just how I am. It's like, you're choosing to be this way.
Right.
But yeah, so this is the thing is like if there was a lover's quarrel to the point that it became like notable, she'd be like, who are you? I am the Blood Countess. Remember.
Right.
If my volume is here, the highest yours can be is half
that. Right. Yeah.
But yes, there's definitely relationships within the Court of Blood.
Yeah. And then number 4, then a personal shipping question. What is the age difference between Harpy and Alpha? I'm not sure why, but I ship those two. I just want to make sure there isn't a major age gap or something like that. But then again, that didn't stop me from shipping her and Night Mist and aged up only in my mind. But then you so rudely blew a massive hole in the hull of that one. Regards, lady.
I think that, so Night Mist and Alpha are similar in age, but Alpha's definitely older than Night Mist.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Because when we get Alpha,
it's close because Night Mist's been around for so much longer, but
right. But when we get Alpha as like Wolf Woman, Night Mist is like a teen.
Night Mist is a teen. When should we get okay.
Yeah.
Well,
people age at different rates for sure in comics, obviously.
People age at different rates.
For
but like she's like a mid-30s reporter for most of the time, and Harpy is like early 20s.
At oldest.
At oldest, yeah. All right. I hope that answers your questions.
There we go. All right, Adam. This letter doesn't really fit in the shipping section. But here's the thing.
It's about knife. So
no, it's not even about knife. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I'm so excited to share this with you.
Okay.
This letter is, I love this letter, Adam. Like, I am professing my love to this letter, and hence I put it in this section. This letter blew me away. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is stunning. This is genuinely like thrilling and stunning to me. This
So
letter.
you're in love with this letter.
That's correct.
That's why it's here. Okay.
That's correct. Yep, you got it. Okay. This letter is from Knife's #1 fan.
Okay.
Who writes, Dear Christopher and Adam, I was just listening to Editor's Note number 87, and I heard you get excited about Ice Up the Whole Rat being referenced in an official publication. That's not the first time your work has been featured in a scientific paper. In fact, you are a foundational building block for a multi-billion-dollar project.
Wait, what?
I'm so excited about this.
What?
Allow me to share the MTIA paper from the ISCA 2023 conference. It talks about Knife, the kernel nanocompiler yielding flawless execution, which is the software that enables the MTIA hardware. A copy of said paper can be found here, and then there is a link to a PDF. Adam.
Yeah.
I have read this PDF.
Yeah.
I am taken aback.
What is it?
I've put a link to it in the Discord.
Okay.
And I'm gonna continue reading. A compiler is how programming languages get translated into ones and zeros that a computer can understand. Knife, the kernel nanocompiler yielding flawless execution, introduced its own programming language called Block, which you can read all about here. And I'm going to put another link in the Discord.
Okay.
Thank you for your amazing lore you've created that inspired so much. Knife's #1 fan.
Wow. Oh my God. Wow.
Uh-huh. And let me tell you, like I said, I read this paper. A lot of it went over my head. This is not my area of expertise.
No, I don't understand. I'm seeing things on here. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Multi-billion-dollar project, huh? Can I just have one of the billions?
Nope. They're not for us.
Okay. I just would like one. It's a lightweight code generator. That's crazy. Wow.
Uh-huh. So anyway,
I mean, it clearly is actually a reference. Like,
right, because the fact that it's kernel nanocompiler yielding flawless executions, and then the language that it makes is called Block.
Yeah.
Like, Knife's #1 fan, I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you that you're Knife's #1 fan, and that's very cool. I'm honored, honestly. I'm stunned.
Yeah.
We got this letter a few weeks ago, and I was like, I want to do this in an editor's note. See your live reaction, but
that's
also
insane.
It's very cool.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, scientific community. My last letter for this section comes from Lavender Clad in Decadence, who writes, if Citizen Truth and Grunt Guards met, would they kiss, seeing as their shared interest in reducing hero damage and dying to execute effects? Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Citizen Truth and Grunt Guards would kiss.
All right.
And then they would die to execute effects.
Yep. But with their dying breath.
Right. They're not dying to execute effects. They're dying to execute effects. They're not dying to execute effects.
Right.
Anyway. We've got a lot of letters in the chat, Adam.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to the chat. To the chat.
I would like to go to the chat, but Brian has posted a GIF in the chat of a cat with very wiggly ears, and I'm hypnotized. I can't look away from the wiggly ears.
Well, do you want me to start?
Yeah, you had a very short letter there from Lavender Clad in Decadence. You start. I'm going to watch these wiggly ears.
All right. Davriel, student of knowledge, writes, what type of Valentine's gift does Pete Resk get when something unfortunate happens to the chocolate and flowers he bought to begin with? I think that he shows up with a busted box of chocolates and broken flowers. Oh,
no, I like the idea that like he buys chocolate flowers and those get messed up. And yeah, he definitely has shown up with that before. But then like also we get like he picks up a potted plant from the window ledge in the apartment building. He's like, I've got this potted plant. She's like, that's the one from just outside the door. It's like, yeah, no.
Well, I knew you already liked it. So.
Yeah. And she's like, that's our neighbor's. You should put it back. She'll be mad. It's like, oh, yep, sorry. Yeah. But that sort of thing definitely happened.
Okay.
Project Shadow 115. Oh, right. I gotta know. On behalf of Emily, who can't make it, can you use your whiteboard powers to describe the safety rigging used for roof sections of climbing wall? Yes, absolutely. Do you want me to do so, or are you just asking if I can? Because I can use my word powers to describe that, but I don't know if you want me to do. It's unclear what you want here.
Yeah, I think that Project Shadow just wants to know if you can.
I absolutely can.
Yeah, great.
This is a wall.
Mm-hmm. Go straight up and down. It's a straight up and down line. There's a person at the bottom. Yep. I'm describing this for the viewers at home. They're the listeners.
This is not a dog.
It's not a. What is it? It looks like
it's a person.
Oh, that's a person on the. Okay, I thought it could be a pulley system of some. So there's a person now on the wall, climbing it.
Person on the wall. That's a pile of rope.
Pile of rope. There's a scribbly at the bottom next to the person, and now it's going up to the person's hand and then up to the person on the wall.
So, when you're climbing, the type of climbing I do is called lead climbing, and this is the same rope system used for lead climbing and for trad climbing. The difference is just the gear. Mm-hmm. But when you're climbing, the rope is not going from the belayer, the person on the ground, up to a pulley at the top and down to the climber. Mm-hmm. That is top rope climbing, a thing that you can't do in the wild. Somebody has to set that rope up, right?
Right.
So
obviously,
what you're doing is you're climbing up the wall, and there are either rings that have been sunk into the wall that I can hang gear from and then put the rope through that gear. Or in trad climbing, you put bolts and things into the wall. You put stuff in cracks in the wall to create a spot that you can hang your gear from and then put the rope on it. But either way, as you're climbing, like this person climbing. As you're climbing, the rope is going from the belayer on the ground. Like when we start, if you and I were climbing together and I was climbing and you were belaying, you would have the pile of rope. The rope would go through a belay device that was attached to your harness and then into your hands. And then the rope would go from your hands to me. They would go and be tied to my harness. And so when I first start climbing up the wall, if I fall, nothing possibly catches me. I just fall. But every 10 feet or so, I will put gear into the wall one way or another. And then I will take the rope that is attached to my waist and put it through that gear. Because the end of the gear will have a carabiner. And you take the rope and you just run it through there. And so now, you can think of these like save points. Whenever you fall, you're not going to fall to that point. You're going to fall past that point.
Right.
But
you're no more than 10 feet past that point.
That's right, right. If your belayer is doing a good job, they're watching. And if you take a fall, they're going to back up and they're going to pull the rope through their device. So as you're going, you're putting gear into the wall.
Right. Yeah.
And so as you go up the wall, that takes care of it. So when the wall does this and becomes a roof, and is no longer straight up and down, because again, the pulley system straight up and down, that works on the wall straight. But this is why this is not the best system, because a lot of walls aren't straight. They go in and out and everything, and so you want the gear to be holding you close to the wall, ideally.
Right.
And so you put gear at each of these points.
There are several points along the curve of the roof, almost like a graph. Like if you were plotting points on a graph and drew a line along them, that's kind of what it looks like.
And so if this person here is climbing, they've put the rope into gear in the wall at various points. And so even as they're climbing completely upside down on their back on a roof section, as you're going the roof section, you're hanging on, and you just got to put gear into the roof and then put the rope through the gear. Because if you fall, now what happens? If you're falling on the wall, you're climbing up and you fall on the wall, you fall straight down, but you're still at the wall and you can clamber back up to where you were. Whenever this happens to me, you take a fall out here, and what happens is then you're just dangling in midair, and you can't reach the wall, and you're like, and you got two options at this point. You come down and you just run the rope through the system and pull it out. Okay. Or you can try to juke back up, where you grab the rope above you and you go, Ugh. And as you're doing that, the person on the ground is pulling the rope, and you try to just inch your way back up to the top. Yeah. And if it's a particularly long juke, you don't do it. You just don't.
Right.
But anyway, that is how the rope system.
Okay.
Terrible radio, but answer the question.
Great. Nerd Crisis Maniac writes, would Wager Master watch YTPs? Would he force heroes to act them out? How about Grimm?
Sure.
I don't think, I don't know.
I don't think it's come up in comics, but sure.
It hasn't come up. Yeah.
Would he? Would he? He could.
Sure, he could.
Grimm, less likely.
No, Grimm would not.
Grimm doesn't get into modern media.
YTPs are not stories. Like
there's also that.
They're just like dumb, silly jokes that don't tell a story. And Grimm. So
that's why it sounds like a Wager Master thing.
Yeah, yeah. If either of them does anything, it would be Wager Master. But it's also like that doesn't translate to comic books very well.
Yeah. Greasy Grax. Big fan of YTPs.
Just okay.
Maurice Linden writes, did Grimm ever do Romeo and Juliet? And if so, can you tell about it now? Or would that be a whole writer's room? Grimm's Romeo and Juliet's a pretty good writer's room.
It is a good writer's room. Yeah, that's when...
Yeah.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah.
For sure. Tango writes, I've got a question about the adhesivist that popped into my mind randomly. It's clear that Glenn is a chemist and loves glue and his wife, which means it's appropriate question for Valentine's Day editors.
Good job, Tango.
Yes. you understood the assignment.
Yeah.
He works with the chemical makeup of his glue in order to stick things together.
Sure.
So my question is this. Does he ever employ other branches of the sciences to further his sticky schemes? Does he attempt to use the power of suction to stick things together with his understanding of Newtonian physics?
Absolutely not.
Does he try to create a relativistic bond between two objects so he can enact spooky action at a distance? Does he use biological pheromones when trying his latest idea of commanding insects to physically hold two objects together? I may have gotten a bit carried away with the last one, but I just couldn't let go of this idea. Anyway, thanks, Tango.
Tango, I know how it is when the idea gets stuck in your mind.
Yeah.
Anyway, so no, in fact, he would be like outraged / offended. He's like, no. I do it with glue. I don't have to resort to non-glue solutions.
Yeah, I make the best glue.
Right.
I glue well. I glue very well.
I don't need suction. Suction can't stand up to my glue. Adam, I got to tell you about Tango now that we're here.
Okay.
Tango is doing a re-listen of everything.
Okay.
And writing in letters along the way.
Mm-hmm.
There are some very good Tango letters. Like, you said this one thing 5 years ago in this one instance. Just, I am excited to someday. I'm trying to decide, because like either they're going to come up organically as we do episodes about related stuff and I can pull those in. Yeah. But I'm kind of tempted when Tango catches up to do like a Tango-sode.
It's like a special extra episode where we just read all the Tango letters.
We're going to go through the chronological order of because the Tango letters are very good. I wanted you to know, because Tango, they haven't come up in anything so far, but I wanted you to know, I've been reading the letters as they come in. I'm like, yes, good. Or, oh no. It's also an emotion I feel sometimes. Yeah. Apostates Shrike writes, howdy. Would you kindly describe your thoughts on the following ships with only one word each? Are you ready, Adam?
Okay. Yeah.
Elaborate as much or as little as you want. Excuse me. Do you want us to elaborate as much or as little as we want with one word?
I think we just do one word.
I agree.
That's the original assignment.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Skyscraper / fashion / ruin.
What?
There was a whole episode.
That's my word.
Death Fiend 8 and Wraith. That's not a word. It's just a facial expression.
I know. I'm trying to think of a word.
I know many words.
Yeah.
Ishkabibble. Linoleum. Albatross.
Unlikely. That's all I got for that one. Yeah.
Fanatic and Seraph.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Fanatic and Saint Celestine from Warhammer 40K. I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is. Yes. Sorry.
Is my word.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
Thanks. Absolute Zero, Citizen Winter, and Yeti.
Cold.
Busy.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Dark Strife and Fanatic. Oof.
Oh boy. Toxic.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Painstake and parentheses come back to it.
I don't know.
Apostate Strike, did you forget to finish your line? You didn't come back to it.
Yeah, you didn't come back.
We'll come back to it. Iron Legacy / Citizen Dawn.
Can I mush together power couple?
Yeah, that's you can make that one word.
Yeah,
you can German it.
Mm-hmm.
Alpha and naturalist.
Sensible. It's like the most sensible thing on here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sad. It's not one word. Sad tree. Citizen Anvil and Dark Visionary.
Oh boy. This is an Anvil and Dark. I feel like you're more qualified to answer that one.
Rude. Yeah. Okay. There we go.
All right.
There we go.
Maurice Linden writes, has Fnatic had any love interest before Ra?
I mean, certainly, right? Like, think about it. When the character's created and how there's got to be.
There have to be some.
There's got to be some attempted stories that fell flat and no one was into.
Yeah. Ra's the only one that took off.
Yeah. Nothing notable, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nerd, Crisis Maniac, writes, since April 1st is a Tuesday this year, we should all send in silly topic. Should we all send in silly topic suggestions? I definitely don't have any, though. The problem is April Fools isn't when you do something silly, right? So April Fools is when you do something very earnestly, but it's wrong. Or like,
yeah, or you have to trick someone.
You do a trick or a prank or a lie, a fool. I mean, so we're April. That's my secret, Cap. I'm always April Fool's. And
this is all one big trick.
Yeah. But should we all send in silly topic
there
suggestions?
There never was a Sentinel Comics. That's trick.
True. When you say that, it makes me feel bad. But it's also like, I was like, yes, there was. It's real. It's real to me, Adam.
You can send in silly topics if you want.
Of course.
I would
true every month.
Like, I think that only one would make it into the.
I could see voting. A couple making it in,
but going like these are the options for April Fools. Like,
right, but also we might take a hard.
It depends. It depends on like what we see.
Yeah, we might swerve and do something different. You never know.
Yeah. We might tell you that we're going to do one episode and then do another. That would be the ultimate April Fool.
We might not release an episode that day. Pranked. Gotcha.
Gotcha. Eyeball Paladin writes, speaking of Bugbear, you said before that your goal is to have everything from Enhanced Edition in Definitive Edition. Is that still the goal? You've admitted that some stuff had less of an impact in-universe than their original decks indicated. Visionary not being in the Definitive Edition core box comes to mind. Is the goal still there, or is it possible some Enhanced Edition decks won't get full Definitive Edition decks?
I never said that every deck in Enhanced Edition would be in Definitive Edition. I said that every character in Enhanced Edition, everything.
Yeah.
That like the story of Sentinel Comics. So like,
yeah, there's some right sizing going on.
Yeah.
I don't think that Visionary not being in the core box is indicative of her impact, though. It's more the tone of things.
Yeah.
That we had like consistent. We went, we're putting the two big teams in the core box with their associated friends, and then like doing one around Dark Watch and doing one around Time Travel and like all that stuff.
Desperation. So,
yeah.
So
Desperation kind of thematically linked everything in there very well. So
right. Bugbear will be in Definitive Edition. But by that same nature, I'm going to say it the same way that I've said anything whenever I'm asked about, like, well, when's the Scholar coming out? Who? What? They're not in Definitive Edition yet. Time will tell. Who can say?
Yeah.
So, okay, here we go. Stupidiot writes, since it's Valentine's, yes, I figured I'd go over the most inane shipping habits among fandoms. Oh, no. So today we're going to talk about crack ships. I don't know what this means.
You know what crack ships means?
I do?
Yes, we've talked about it. Yeah, it just means crazy ones.
Oh.
Like ships that are on crack.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, in fact, it says it goes on to explain this. Actually, Apostate Strike, I already sent some in earlier, but I have some more. Crack ships are pretty much what they sound like. They're ships you come up with when you're on crack. Okay, yeah. I assumed it was crack ships and that like, oh, well, this like cracks the canon. Like this.
Nope, it's crack cocaine.
Crack ship could be a ship between characters that rarely interact or do not interact at all. Characters with zero chemistry or characters that otherwise don't make sense to pair up. I feel like a lot of ships fall into this category.
Yes, a lot of them do.
Okay.
Yes.
They can even be from different properties entirely. Sure. I think it's important to note that a crack ship is probably not a ship that is specifically objectionable to ship. A ship like Legacy and Baron Blade is so counter-dynamic to the written canon that it's no longer a crack ship. Well, what is it then? Because Legacy and Baron Blade is a very popular ship.
Yeah.
Legacy Baron Blade is a very popular ship.
I don't know. I don't think that's like crack inspired though. That's the enemies to lovers
super common.
Is very popular. That's not like
they have so much passion.
So I don't think though that's a crack ship. I think that's
Yeah. All right. Here's a list of crack ships that me and some of the other patrons came up with. Wraith and a sentient hairdryer. Yeah, that's great. They make out.
Great.
Spite and Plague Rat. Yeah, well, that one's just canon. Citizen Dawn and Magneto.
Things get crazy in the sewers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Citizen Dawn and Magneto. Sure.
She's not serious enough for him. Skateblade. Skateblade just by himself.
By himself.
Yeah.
Oh, it got edited. Yep.
It was funny when it was just Skateblade on a bullet point by himself. Skateblade and Harpy? I don't like that. If you said Skateblade and Matriarch, right? Like it's a minor shift, but like Skateblade and Matriarch, I'm like, oh, okay. Skateblade and Harpy?
Yeah.
Krons and Citizens.
He's enough of a bad boy for her, though. Like
Dr. Krons and Citizens Autumn, Winter, Spring, and Summer. There's 4 of them. Yeah, ew. No.
Well, yeah, no, gross.
4 of them. What?
4?
You had.
We're saying gross from his perspective.
That's right.
Now.
Yeah. Why? You had blood, sweat, and tears right there. Perfect.
Right there. That's yeah.
Baron Blade and Gru from Despicable Me. I've not seen Despicable Me. I know not of what you speak.
He's Kmart mad scientist.
Okay.
Cool. That's yeah.
Absolute Zero and Elsa from Frozen. Well, the cult never bothered her anyway, right? That's that.
Yeah, no, that's a great one.
Yeah. She's Cold Power Citizen Dawn. Not with the Citizen of the Sun, but like in terms of right?
Yeah, kind of, sure. I mean, like she's the Snow Queen from
Yeah. Here's the thematic crack ship. Diamond Diva and Lillian, if I had a nickel for every time I entered the homoerotic tutelage of an ancient inhuman magical creature, I'd have 2 to 3 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, thrice, Corvus. It's thematic, but I sincerely doubt they'd interact much, if at all. Yeah, I don't think they interact.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But if they did, she'd be like, I should learn from that Void Lady.
Yeah, and have weird tension about it.
Yep. Every man for himself. Thank you, Gun Rap, for the amazing fun. Every man for himself is pretty funny.
Boy, yeah, all right.
I'd like to invite you and any watchers or listeners out there to come up with your most atrocious crack ships. No idea when it would come up, but I want it to be out there for the chaos. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go crack ship my bestest blorbos together. What's a good name for Mangrove and Omnitron X? Manatron X? Omnigrove? Swamp Robots? Hey, I'll workshop it. I'm sure you will.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you, Stupidiot. Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. B writes, what would Extremiverse Apostate do if presented with Matthew? Probably kill him.
Yeah.
Extremiverse Apostate likes to kill everything.
Yeah. You'd be like, that seems like
it's very metal, swing swords.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Brian says, has Zhulong ever known love? Yes, he's known love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Barkaf, has Ra had any love interest before Fanatic? What about Dr. Blake Washington Jr.? You've said the Fanatic is not interested in that side of him. Does he have other romance subplots? I kind of think that before Fanatic, all of his subplots are Blake Washington Jr. ones, and it's like, how do I balance my love life with being Ra?
For sure. For sure. He's definitely no like notable long-term successful relationships, but yeah.
Yeah.
There was probably a chunk of time in which it was implied that he was married, and then it was just like, oh, who's his spouse? And they're like, we're just dropping this.
Yeah.
Brian, like Brian, but spelled wrong, writes, in honor of the Discord having Swiss cheese brain today, what is Plague Rat's favorite cheese? I didn't know that the Discord had Swiss cheese.
Gruyere.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Correct. Got it in one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dare Divine Majesty Faust writes, pulls on my Court of Blood uniform. Good evening. One filled with snow, ready to be drenched in the blood of both the innocent and the guilty.
Great.
I am curious about the Countess Bathory's love life, if this is what we're doing.
We are.
In life, she had a husband, Count Fenric II Nadasti de Nadazd at Fogarasfold,
nailed it,
who died 10 years before her death. Has she ever lamented him, or do comics ignore him? And to continue, let's answer that.
Let's answer that. She killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she definitely killed him. She was married for political reasons and never loved him. And it's pretty heavily implied that she is into women and not men.
We know that she's into both.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. That is
we
true.
know canonically that she's into both.
That's correct. But that like she's into women, and then men are like a sometimes food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to continue questions for love, that gets to this. To continue questions on her love, has she ever taken on a lover in comics? Vampires are often associated with homosexual undertones, and the Court of Blood is mostly women. Has she or would she take a female lover? As ever, looking forward to assuring your continued cooperation. We did answer this earlier.
A little bit. I think that I did want to point out that we talked about before is like, yeah. There's romance within the Court of Blood. Mm-hmm. Romance is maybe not the right word. And then there's also like sure drama that comes out of it, but it's tamped down. Mm-hmm. Their implication with the Court of Blood is that all of these people have at one time been a lover of Blood Countess Bathory.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I'm keeping you around forever. Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily all actively in a relationship with her, but like... Yeah.
This is also like far from the number of lovers she's actually had.
Right.
These are just the ones that she's kept.
But she definitely has lovers as a conquest sort of thing for her, as a, like, she doesn't have like, loving equal relationship sort of partnerships. You know, that's not her. That's not her jam.
No, that's not her.
Brian writes, has Dana ever gotten powers for a brief stint? Man, yeah, like, sure.
Probably. Yeah. There's probably a Silver Age issue where she has powers.
Or a single issue, yeah. It's at most a single arc, and probably a single issue. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see it happening much outside of the Silver Age.
Yeah. It's very... I could see it happening like in the 70s. I could see it like being like a Bronze Age story. But
maybe.
But not
like,
into the 80s.
I think it's
before.
I think it's more entertaining in like the tone of like Lois Lane comics.
The thing to do with it in the 70s is to already have the like what is their relationship undertone, and then have like this somebody miswriting Dana as a you always had powers and I haven't had powers, just you've looked down on me, but now that I have powers, and then you do a like thing of like, oh, the powers changed her and went to her head, and then you get rid of them.
So like the thing that I disagree with on that is that there's not a Tachyon comic in the 70s.
That's a fair point. If there were a Tachyon comic, that definitely would. Yep. Nope. That's the place for it. But you could do it. You could do it in Justice Comics. Not in the 70s though.
No. So like that's why I think that there's a Silver Age story at best about that.
Yeah, where she's a villain for the Freedom Five for a hot second.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or joins the Freedom Five for a hot second. Like there's a couple ways you could do it.
Could do both, yeah.
Yeah.
But like you could submit that topic. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Or we'll put it on the thing. Brian, but spelled wrong, says we know at some point the final wasteland is overrun with Plague Rat descendants, which was one of the earlier Chrono Ranger bounties, which implies that at least that Plague Rat continues after Oblivion. So in the Prophecies timeline, do we see a future Plague Rat?
It does not imply that Plague Rat continues after Oblivion, because nothing is after Oblivion. Oblivion doesn't exist, right? When we're early on and we're talking about like, oh, the end of times and things. And then as soon as Oblivion starts to exist, time travel goes, oh, shoot, oh no, we can't go past a certain point. And that is like, we know that from Commodoro's point of view. So there is no implication that anything continues after Oblivion.
Right.
Until Oblivion is dealt with, and then it's like, oh, well, now everything is continuing after Oblivion.
Now everything continues normal.
Right.
How great. Yeah.
But in the Prophecy timeline, do we see a future Plague Rat? Possibly.
Yeah.
That's on the block.
Right.
Fregrek says, hail, writers. How does time travel work? Oh, no.
Oh, no.
No, it says, it doesn't say that. It says, how does time work?
Okay. All right. I can answer that better.
A little bit. Don't get too deep into it, though.
No.
How does time work with the whole end of realities caused by Oblivion? Due to the black spot/void seen by multiple characters that is supposed to be the end of time, all things, does the Oblivion event prevent time travel between the pre- and post-Oblivion eras? Cordially, Fregarek.
Currently, there's a lot of things preventing time travel between the pre- and post-Oblivion eras.
That's
but
correct.
Yes.
I love the answer yes to that very not a yes or no. Just yes. Yeah. Yep. Time. Yeah. Yes. Time works. We can verify that time continues working. Inexplicably. The sandwich bag answer is the short-term answer as to time travel before, after, around, during Oblivion. Beyond that is unexplored territory in the pages of Sentinel Comics at this point.
I have a a question from Churro, Overcome by Churros. Digging Enhanced Edition back up again, is Visionary still 17 as per her digital bio? I can see her being 17 in her first appearance, but is she considered a teenager for her entire comics run? She has one of the darkest arcs in the entirety of your franchise, and her being a teenager and going through all that would make it a lot of it worse.
No. Her 17 is like not even her first appearance. It's like 17 is her like backstory. Maybe she's 17 when she tears from one reality to another. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them being like, "Oh yeah, she's 17," and then immediately being like, "And now she's 20."
Yeah, but like I think of Visionary as being in her early 30s, though.
Oh, I mean, I think of her in her 20s. I think of most characters in their 20s, though.
I think of her as being older than the Wraith, older than Bunker.
Oh, I do not. I think she's younger than both.
Do you think she's younger than both?
Yes, I think that's part of that. Like, it is kind of part of her story is that she is prematurely aged. That
the Dark Visionary stuff is hard on a person.
Yeah, I mean, and so is growing up being built as a weapon.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I think that she is younger than she seems.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. No, I get that. Davriel Student of Knowledge says, are there any villain couples that stayed together for a decent chunk of time besides Hammer and Anvil, obviously?
Well, yeah. The obvious one. Bertrand and Ermin.
Yeah. But they're pretty recent.
Yeah, but I mean that's still a little bit.
Yeah.
That's probably the best you got though.
It is probably the best you got.
Yeah. Brian asked what my science crimes are. I don't know.
Okay, then we go forward through all of the science reactions. People were excited about that. Very reasonably should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Davriel Student of Knowledge asks, does Guys get mopey on Valentine's? Does he get excited the day after? Well, Guys is definitely the type of person to go buy all the discount candy.
Oh, right.
So, yes.
Yeah, I think he has a pretty stereotypical, like, alone on Valentine's again sort of story.
Yeah.
Oddball Paladin says in response to the thing we were talking about Setback showing up with broken flowers and broken chocolates, says Amanda arranges things so there's a traveling florist right outside their door when Pete gets home.
Nice.
Yeah. Frag Rag responds, who is met with an unfortunate accident. All right, so out of the rest of the letters today, we have two more sections of letters, but they're just broken up for broken up sake. The rest of the letters today are kind of meta stuff, and we're just going to talk a lot about ourselves and our process, kind of.
Great, okay.
I've been collecting these for a little bit because we had like one or two. I'm like, these go together, and then this is what this stuff is today. So, okay, first letter today of this section is from Disc Toss, who writes, Dear CNA, how was Legacy /Haka /Unity's powers never questioned throughout the meta history? Compared to mainline comics, long mainstay characters never had their powers really explained for a long time. Yet there have been strange reasons for powers that were further elaborated years, maybe decades longer in mainline comics, but even then, they had a simple explanation based off exaggerated sci-fi logic or just a supernatural that all the readers wouldn't question.
Yeah.
Lightning bolts and chemicals, space or gamma rays, radioactive spiders, even supernatural or mutations that happen in real life just to get exaggerated. Even the supernatural existing, like ghosts and werewolves, would be unquestioned. But the characters I mentioned, and maybe Captain Cosmic, though it depends on if you accept mysterious space rock as an explanation.
I do.
Don't have an initial explanation, and their stories aren't focused as much about learning what their powers are to make up the lack of explanation. Is there any reason you had these major character power sources so mysterious for such a long time? And are there other mainstay examples with similar lack of initial explanation? And how often was this questioned by readers in the metaverse? Thank you, Distos. Okay, the reason I went through that whole thing is because yes, absolutely they were questioned and answered incorrect, but like the legacy was like, the whole family's had powers going from generations. This is the legacy powers.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a like really a comic book need for more explanation than that. It's just like, they get powers, they continue to get powers. Okay,
Haka had the ancient Maori powers, and that was the case for a long time.
It was like no,
obviously, like the more and more you don't kill Haka, it's like, okay, so this isn't just like Maori stuff. It's
no, but like even the first appearance where it's like the man for whom the grave holds no sway coming out of the thing is like very nebulous. Like, well, it must be some sort of ancient Maori magic. Right. Like, and he'll never know. And like, I just have to accept it, like, sort of thing.
Yeah. So like all of them had explanations, and the explanations that you guys know are the, as time goes on, writers go, this is unsatisfactory, or, oh, you know what we could do? We could, but they're retcons. They're definitely retcons. Nobody wrote Legacy in the 40s going, and there's this like wellspring singular entity, like, poof. No, that's nonsense. Like, so these later retcons, which make the characters more interesting and better explain the powers, are a result of these characters being written for decades and people going, okay, hold on, we've expanded these powers so much that we need, and before anybody at Sentinel Comics is writing any of this, the fans are definitely going, hold on, this character doesn't make any sense. You'd have to have more of this. You'd have to have more of that. And the Sentinel Comics stories explaining the singular entities and the time travel and the chaos stuff is all in response to that. It's all like, the fans are clamoring for a better explanation of this, and I'm just the writer to do it.
You mentioned the radioactive spiders, like they did the same thing with Spider-Man.
Right.
That, like, with the J. Michael Straczynski Spider-Man run. And like, that's exactly what happened. We have an established origin, it's good enough, and now we're going to add more to it.
There you go.
Slyduck.
A new Patreon member, Slyduck. Sorry to dox you, Slyduck.
Yeah. Now people know that Slyduck is on the Patreon. A good morrow to you fine sirs. As I've been listening to the letters page more and more and learning more and more about the multi and metaverses, I've been thinking about something. But first, I should preface that I am a comics fan to such a casual degree that most purists would likely call me phony. I don't think I have ever actually purchased any comic books other than the Bone books at the Scholastic book fairs when I was growing up.
I'm going to interrupt you right there, Adam.
Yeah.
The Bone books are phenomenal.
Bone is great. Bone is amazing.
Bone is so good.
Yeah. Like that, it's splitting hairs. I would call that graphic novel, but like
they are graphic novels.
Sure.
But whatever. That's the same stuff. But like, man, those, I wish that more had ever been done with that. At the same time, I'm kind of glad it didn't, because it never.
They tried to make an animated series a whole bunch of time, and Netflix screwed him over most recently.
Interesting.
But
I didn't know that.
He's had like a bunch of deals, like with a bunch of people, and they've all screwed him over.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yep. I have very little actual experience with real world comic stores, at least not firsthand. Mostly I watch videos about comic history and have enjoyed a fair few comic book movies. All right. All that being said, my understanding has been that in the real world, the majority of stories after the Golden Age or so have moved away from anthology books and moved to series named after their title character, focusing exclusively on the story of one hero with occasional crossovers. Sentinel Comics seem to have a stronger focus on team books than individual titles. I can understand this from a meta perspective, as the game the fake comics feed into are all designed to be cooperative.
Fake comics?
However, yeah. However, even outside of these team books, it seems that far more stories are told in books like Tome of the Bizarre, Justice Comics, Cosmic Tales, Mystery Comics, and the like. For example, I don't know of any Writers' Rooms episodes covering Legacy number 187, Wraith number 23, or Spectacular / Amazing / Sensational Web of Setback number 60. This raises a few questions to me about the publishing practices of Sentinel Comics in the metaverse.
Okay, I am going to pause right there. We do have Legacy 187. It's called America's Finest Legacy. That's a book.
Legacy has a title.
Right. Yeah. Mystery Comics is most often a Wraith book. Now it's not, right? It does a lot of other things, but Mystery Comics is a Wraith title.
Right. And like, I mean, to look at the real world, DC has both Superman and Action Comics. They have both Batman and Detective Comics.
Yeah.
So like that
it's true that we don't have enough solo books.
It is true.
Like in comparison to real life comics, we have far fewer solo books. We have more team books, and we have more anthology books, and we keep anthology books coming into modern day. That's true. That's all true. But there are solo books that do exist that aren't necessarily named in a way. Cosmic Tales for a long time, and this is not helpful to you right now, but like Adam and I were recently going through this, and the History of Sentinel Comics book does a great job explaining like, for this chunk of time, this person is headlining this book, and this person's headlining this book, and that's how that, like, this is what this story is for. So
yeah. Arcane Tales just becomes raw God of the Sun for a while.
For a long time, forever.
Yeah.
For 500 issues. So,
yeah. So that is to say that it does happen, but it is a little bit different. If we were creating a new universe from the ground up, we would do a little bit
But I also don't mind
more
that
solo focused, I think.
I think so, but also I don't mind that Sentinel Comics just works differently than mainstream worlds. It's a different the metaverse where these are published is a different world that is different kind of comic books. And for whatever reason, those books evolved in a way where the stories that were told were more cast of characters, were more, and like modernly, a lot of media that people like are things with wider, more versatile cast of characters.
I don't know that I completely agree with that, but like,
there's a lot of examples though.
I think there are a lot of examples, but I think that there's also a lot of bristling of like changing solo books into team books.
I'm not talking about comics,
but
sorry, I started talking about media. I'm talking about like movies and TV shows and novels and things. There's a lot of media, a lot of non-comics media, let me be clear, that has a lot of like wider cast of things. And so saying, in this universe, in this world, in this metaverse, the way that storytelling, that comic book storytelling happened to evolve is just different than the way it is. I don't hate that. That doesn't bother me.
No, the only thing that does really bother me about it is that it's hard to give people individual villains.
Sure.
Like if they're almost always on a team, it's really hard to focus animosity between two people.
Yep.
So like Nemesis kind of have to be a little bit astroturfed in that, but other than that, that's the only thing that really bothers me about the way we did things.
Yeah.
But
I think we managed to make it work out in most cases pretty well. But it took more effort in that regard.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Letter finishes, are comic books not as popular in the metaverse as they are in the real world? Do heroes need to be consolidated more often in order to meet sales numbers? Do the publishers not think that name recognition and branding are important to hook readers and keep them reading? For example, why call Anthony Drake's solo title Virtuoso of the Void instead of Argent Adept to ensure that people less familiar with the character already or know exactly what to look for on the shelf? Okay.
Comic books, I think, are at least as popular, if not more popular in the metaverse.
Yeah, well, one thing that I really dislike about the current comic industry is that there are way too many comics.
Yeah,
that
we intentionally have a smaller roster.
This is an intentional kind of mean-spirited marketing thing that the two big main comic companies do. It's called the flood the shelves strategy, that they put out way too many comic books so that there's not room for smaller comic books in comic book stores. Because they just want to suck up all the air in the room. So they put out 100 books a month, and there doesn't need to be 100 books a month. Nobody's reading 100 books a month. Like, most of these books are going for 3-4 issues and getting canceled. So, but they just keep putting them out so that they're taking up the shelf space. And I don't like that. And so like, we don't have Sentinel Comics doing that. We put out the books that we feel like they need to put out, and that's pretty much it. Again, feel free to let me know if I'm wrong about real world publication practices or if I missed anything about the metaverse. I'm always interested to learn more. Your friend, the Dabbling Drake, Slydock. Oh, the thing that we didn't ask.
Yeah, I was saying, you answered the first part, but then you just went on to read the ending. I was like, okay.
Right.
Like,
branding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the solo title for the character named the Argent Adept doesn't have the word Argent Adept on the front of the book. That's weird. Yeah, agreed. Yeah. That is weird.
It is weird. Yep. I think that a lot of the times it does, though.
Oh,
also,
many times, like, but not always.
Yeah.
And this is, I think that there's an amount of, I think that actually we again know from the History of Sentinel Comics book, but also we've seen it created. I think that the trick is that for a lot of Sentinel Comics history, not all, but a lot of it, it's a lot more creator driven than it is executive driven.
Yeah.
Which has its ups and downs.
I think that you see character names on books surprisingly often, even though they're not called that also. So like you think about the Tome of the Bazaar, Naturalist is heading it for a while.
Yep.
It says Tome of the Bazaar presents the Naturalist. And so it's
and the name of the book continues to be the Tome of the Bazaar that whole time. And yet.
Right. If you look at the, like Indicia on the bottom, in like at the beginning, it says Tome of the Bazaar number this.
Yep.
It's not Tome of the Bazaar presents the Naturalist. It's still just Tome of the Bazaar. I hope that answers your questions. Yeah.
All right. I have a letter here, Adam, from Slyduck, who writes, "Good day, gentle Christophers and Adams. I've been a fan of Sentinels since I got the base game almost a decade ago, and I've loved the multiverse you created. I just started on the podcast, and I'm watching the episodes out of order to keep up with the new stuff and explore the old stuff. in keeping with your letter, Slyduck, I have printed your letters out of chronological order.
Oh, good.
Recently, I've been thinking about I'm thinking of the metaverse to Sentinel Comics, and I was wondering about the stories which contain in themselves murder and assassination, specifically character assassination.
Mm-hmm.
You've mentioned the dark times the company has gone through with poor management and creative teams, and I was wondering if you have some examples of characters doing stuff completely out of character, which ruin people's perception of them. I'm imagining a scene where Legacy claims that heroism is more trouble than it's worth, where Anthony Drake tells someone to give up on music because they won't make any money, where Rod says he prefers a moonlit dinner over a walk on the beach. What? I'm sure there are plenty of instances of such things, like what happens all the time with real-world characters like Schmatman and Schmooperman. Is what it's written here. How were these events addressed? Do the readership largely ignore them eventually, or were some of them explicitly retconned? I see flesh children being used as scapegoats for bad writing. That did happen once for a lot of Tempest.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Tempest got retconned into, oh, that was a flesh child, but that was not intended to be a flesh child. It was just bad writing.
No, it was that's probably the best example, is that they're just like, well, this sucks.
This sucks enough that we should just, because certainly the quality of writers changes from book to book, and beyond that, the quality of writing, like a very good writer can write a terrible book.
Yeah,
you know,
but they're playing the bad writing telephone game with Tempest for years. Right. It's like, well, this is how the guy wrote him before me, and so I'm going to kind of write him the same way.
Oh,
but just like,
I know what Tempest's voice is. It's bad. I'll just write like that. It's like, oh, this is terrible. So like, can we just can all of this? So there's certainly hundreds of issues of Sentinel Comics that mischaracterize their characters canonically.
Yeah. I don't think that there's ever character assassination to the point where people are like outside of Tempest, where people are like, this is not it.
Right.
And like, I give up on this character entirely.
And I would say that character assassination, the term character assassination, is not what you're describing. Somebody being written poorly as character assassination. No. Character assassination is intentional. Like, you're talking about like character manslaughter. Character assassination is like a writer going, I am going to change this character. I am making an intentional choice, not, I just did a bad job at writing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so I think that we have fewer instances of character assassination. I think I can think of a couple of writers in the 80s who were like, I'm intentionally going to darken this up. I'm going to make this.
Yeah, but it's not like the idea is not to ruin the character.
No, their idea is that the character was ruined by the more lighter tones.
Yes.
That like the original version, the Golden Age version of this character would kill, and now they don't anymore. We're bringing it back. Like, so, yeah. Each era brings with it writers with their own ideas of how the characters should be, and then that interfacing with the realities of what they write and what the reaction to it is.
And I can think of it, like in the real world, I can think of like dozens of instances of both character assassination and character manslaughter, like tons of them, especially now, recently. But we have the advantage of it just being us. And we can
we have a bunch of made up people that make these things, but it's not real. It's just us.
Right.
Yeah.
So Innocent Bystander writes, salutations and good day, gentlemen. I have finally caught up with your 300 plus episode podcast. And of course, that means I needed to go back and listen to a few episodes, and I've noticed a pattern. Oh boy. There are a few notable villains who have their introductory stories rewritten and published again much later. The three that immediately come to mind are the Matriarch, the Dreamer, and the Ennead. Notably, I don't think the Dreamer has that.
No, I don't think so either. The Dreamer's the Nightmare World story is the Dreamer story.
Yeah, the Ennead and the Matriarch, you are correct.
The Dreamer does have a retelling of it that happens later, but it's not like a nope, that was bad, we're doing it again. And the Iron Legacy has a bunch of like instances throughout there. There's the vengeful, there's the Freedom 5 annual that happens later. There's like, hey, let's just real quick kind of do vengeance again. So like the difference between the two is the Ennead one. Let me talk about the Dreamer and the Ennead. The Dreamer, the not the Dreamer. Let me talk about the Matriarch and the Ennead. The Matriarch one happens in the Silver Age. It's the introduction for Absolute Zero. It's one and it's done and it's over. Great. And then when it's brought back with the Knights of Plutonian Shore, it's like a modern writer going, hey, this was actually a cool setup. This was a potentially a cool story. It was fine. It was Silver Age, and it's also largely forgotten, though people remember the character of the matriarch, but they don't know why. Let's just tell it. And so it's not a matter of, the first one was bad. We're going to, broom it under the rug and move on. It's like, no, we're going to do a modern retelling of a classic Sentinel comic story.
Yeah.
The Ennead
to modern continuity. Yeah.
Right. And that way they can introduce the character of the Harpy. The Ennead is a different situation where the idea is cool, but the execution is garbage. Like it comes out and it's like, here's these gods, blah, blah, blah.
It's just like it fizzles.
Yeah. And nobody cares, and it's not written well, and it has no legs, and it doesn't stick, and it doesn't go forward. And so then in the 90s, somebody's like, can we just do that but good? And so they're like, here's the Ennead. And people are like, I kind of remember this. Like, don't worry about it. Here's the Ennead. And here they are. And they're doing the thing. I was like, okay, great. Like, now, the letter goes on to say a thing that I disagree with, but go ahead.
Yeah, notably, letter continues. I can't recall any instances of real world publishing companies doing this, reprinting old comics, yes, but not rewriting whole new versions of them. I can't claim to have an encyclopedic knowledge of this subject, but it raises a question. Is this another difference between the publishing strategies of Sentinel Comics and real world publishers? Is this indicative of a trend with Sentinel Comics where they prefer to retell a story rather than republish it, or are these three events outliers? Thanks for reading my letter, an innocent bystander. So no, the real world comic companies do this all the time.
Constantly. Way more often than we do. Like, Magneto has a big villain arc that tells the story of Magneto and gives the reasons and excuses for Magneto every however many years. Like,
there I could think of like at least two different like Doctor Strange Origin Limited series that they like restart. There are Batman ones all the time. They're constantly reinventing this stuff. Right. Like that is not and something that real comic companies don't do.
The fact that our continuity kind of goes from 1940 to modern day with very few reboots. Like, you didn't mention the reboot of Fanatic, and I think that goes in the same list, where Fanatic starts off, is in Mystery Comics, has her own book, and then the Mystery Comics appearances go fizzle, and then her own book gets canceled, and then it's relaunched with Absolution, and Absolution is like, okay, we're putting all the lore in the correct order and doing it right, and just pretending this stuff didn't come before, but obviously being inspired by it to make the character correct that in the Absolution book in the 80s. That is common and constant in comics. And it's one of the ways that we're unlike mainstream comics is not that we've done this thing, but that we do it less. That we have far fewer reboots of characters, of books, of things. We have some, but fewer. I felt really good, Adam, going into this episode because I'd cut down from 60 letters to far fewer letters, but we still have a lot of letters to get through.
Oh my God. Well, the chat was popping off. So.
Yeah, right. I've got a letter here from Dr. Fate, who writes, "Hello, gentlemen. I have a few deeper questions today. Open transparency. These came out of me rewatching and rereading the Walking Dead series, where a beloved character was brutally murdered that had been around for most of the series. That got me to thinking about death in comics in general. We all know, for the most part, death in most mainstream comics means very little. There's very little gravity towards a major character dying because oftentimes it's very short-lived and only at the mercy of the next writer to start back on the series, or even grab from the current writer to do something, only to bring that character back and try to grab people's quick attention. Death simply doesn't matter to most companies because there's no seriousness around it and it doesn't last anyway. You guys have made a point to mention this before and to kind of go against the grain. You want death to mean something, and so your company's a little different in that characters rarely die, but if they do, they almost never come back. And that's why we've seen so few big characters die over the years.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, there are some things that happen in Sentinel Comics that we talked about before, where like in an issue, it'll be like, oh, the death of so-and-so, says the cover. And then inside you find out, oh, no, they don't actually die. It's just like a pump fake. Or they'll be like, oh, this character dies, but is resurrected by the end of the issue. Like, where it's like, we have minor deaths of characters.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot also of like, oh, they're dead at the end of the issue, and then they come back at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
But and so this is the thing, like, this is the thing that is going to be similar, where people are like, when they say they're dead, they don't really mean it.
Right.
And that's true in Sentinel Comics, where somebody at the end of the issue will be like, oh, no, they're presumed dead, but like, are they really?
I think it's happened probably a lot with villains also. That's like, oh, they fell into a lava factory.
Yeah, but no body, no nothing. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's still there. But in terms of like, okay, no, this character dies and we're putting gravitas to it. Like, at least there should be consequences. Yeah, we killed Mr. Fixer and brought him right back. But like that, you can't say it didn't have
it.
It
Killed Argent Adept too.
We did kill an Argent Adept. That one had less of an impact, not none.
But like
less of an impact than Mr. Fixer.
He was dead for a longer time.
He was dead. I actually think it was about the same.
Really?
If anything, I think Mr. Fixer was dead longer. I think Mr. Fixer was dead for a full year.
Oh, okay.
Whereas Argent Adept was not, but close to it.
I think that Argent Adept was supposed to be dead for longer, and then the
new stuff did not work.
The other virtuosos were like not landing. So
we were going to bring it back eventually. Yeah. So we have the things like that. But I mean, my guess is, going on, this letter is more about things like Night Mist and Scholar.
Yeah.
Okay. That got me wondering, though, from a meta perspective, can you share a little bit of the process that goes into the two of you sitting down and really talking through if a character should die? You compared the big heroes and villains to almost like being children of yours as to how they make such an impact in your life and become something of their own. They grow to take on full lives of their own in your minds as your creations. How difficult is that to actually sit down and potentially consider if a character needs to die? One of your babies. Yeah, thank you, rub it in. And how should it go down? Once you finally made that decision to kill somebody, is there somewhat of a mourning process that you guys experience or some level of deep emotional loss as you think about the life the characters had in your stories and the stories not yet told that are unlikely now? Then finally, how tempting is it to later down the line pull the character back in to utilize them again? I know this is something that goes counter to what you guys are because you want the gravity of the death to represent something and not to shallow it. But I have to imagine there's a great temptation to pull those characters back, sometimes especially in the meta, where years have gone by in our real world since you killed them off and your fans are still calling for some of these characters to come back. Can you share a little bit of what it's like for you guys as well? Thanks so much for all the stories you tell. Okay, so first off, in terms of like demanding characters come back, nobody's gone. Like Night Mist, you can't not play as Night Mist in Sentinels of the Multiverse.
That takes the edge off in a real big way.
Yeah,
like you could.
We still tell Night Mist
making Night Mist stories. Yeah.
Like Night Mist isn't like, and now all Night Mist content is verboten. We'll never again mention the name of Scholar. Like we have we all have the meta joke of like John Rhodes, who Scholar, what? But like, and yet we just did a Christmas Scholar story that some people really liked and some people really did not like. So like that's part of it. So in terms of of us discussing when a character should die, I don't like the word should there, but whatever. With both the Scholar and Night Mist, for us, it was never a matter of like, we really should kill someone here. Who should it be? It was a matter of, okay, we've done this arc with this person's story, and we are at this point in this person's story, and now here this thing is happening, and we both have the realization of like, and then that character is gone. Like that's just it for that character. That's the end of their story. Like that's it.
Yeah, it's so with Scholar, it was we need to have him do this thing for guys,
right?
And we need to have and that absolutely culminates in his death, or like that's
his non-existence, and that like we are informed by everything in the characters. You talk about like how they take on a life of their own, absolutely. And for us, we're like, at this point, this character does this thing. If they do this thing, they won't exist anymore, and they wouldn't have it any other way. Like this is the way this character must go.
Yeah,
it's to rip on a joke that I did last week or the week before something. It is deterministic. It's not a thing where we go, and now we're going to make a choice to kill this character. It's like no, everything that has happened in these characters' stories and in this character's life up to this point has led to this point, and so of course they die here. Of course,
yeah.
This is the culmination of everything.
Yeah, Night Mist has to cast the biggest spell in history and it has to have the biggest cost in history.
Right. If she casts the biggest spell in history to fight Oblivion and is like, cool, that was, man, and I sure had to use up 2 mana potions and also burn this one book. No.
Yeah.
The thing that tells us it's this big, cool thing is the effect and also the cost.
The cost.
Yeah.
Yep.
As for anything coming back in the future, we could bring back Night Mist. We could be like, okay, here we are, Sentinel Comics, Sentinels RPG, and the next book is the Dark Watch source book, and the Dark Watch source book is going to include Night Mist. We could just bring her back. We could do that anytime. There's nothing stopping us from doing it. It's the same thing that I'll say that we said about like, of course they have to die at this point. The only time that a character comes back from the dead for storytelling reasons, not for metaverse reasons of like, oh, well, editorially, they brought Arjun Adam back because we brought Arjun Adam back because we wanted to have Arjun Adam back, and the story was more interesting the way that we did it.
Yeah.
We make up metaverse excuses. Metaverse is almost never the place that we start from.
No, I think that, the death of Arjun Adept is a metaverse story that we were telling.
Yeah.
That we went like, oh, this would be a fun thing to do, to have him gone for a little bit and do these weird other virtuosos and then bring him back.
Yeah.
Like that's a story.
Right. About the metaverse.
About the metaverse.
Right.
Yeah. Not really about Arjun Adept.
But when yeah, man, poor guy. He's not even the main character of his own death.
Yeah.
But when we are telling these stories, and we're choosing to off a character or bring them back, I don't really want to get into the process of how we do that, because that's the process of like, rather, I don't want to get into it any more than we have. You hear that process all the time when we do our weekly episodes, our writers' rooms. Our writers' rooms are that same process. We don't really have a different process, which is why sometimes Adam and I will have a conversation to create a character and talk about a thing, and then we'll be like, we did that on the air. You guys heard that. And then you're like, no, you never told us about Busybody. You're like, no, we did Busybody on the air. We're sure of it because it was just us having a call on Zoom like this, creating a character, and it's not different. Like it's different when we're recording, when you're listening, in that like
we don't swear as much.
Yeah, I guess.
That's about it.
And we try to have more momentum.
We do have more momentum, and like, I mean, we hold back information a little bit when we're talking. Like,
yeah, we do.
We go, we can't talk about that.
There's things, or we will talk about it and be like, Trevor, just cut that out.
Yeah,
Trevor has a good feeling. Trevor knows so much more. Like the people that know the most about the multiverse are me and Adam, and then Trevor, because, or rather, it's probably Walking Target. Trevor has heard more.
He's heard more. He knows more secrets.
Yeah, I don't know how much he's internalized.
Yeah,
because I know he's been before. Like, oh, I just hear you saying things. You say, Trevor, cut that out. I'm like, okay, but like, but the point is, we, I don't know. Our creative process is its own thing.
Yeah. All right. Last letter of this section. Then we'll do chat.
Go back to the chat for the last time.
Yeah. Okay. Zane Holloman writes, "Hi all." I read that weird. Hi all.
Hi all.
There's no comma. It just says hi all. First off, I'd like to say that I recently got into Sentinels of the Multiverse with a definitive edition, and I love it.
Yay!
I picked up Rook City Renegades on sale before even playing my first game with the core set, and now I'm slowly making my way through both boxes. I just beat Moonfall last weekend. Absolute zero rules.
Yeah. I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's great to hear.
Yeah. Now for the questions. I have 2 questions for the podcast, both about the Sentinel Comics metaverse. Both about the
Sentinel Comics metaverse.
Yes, both of the questions are not both about this and this. Yeah, okay.
That's all right. We're a little we're a little Swiss cheese brain ourselves today.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Question number 1: does superhero media take over popular culture in a world where Sentinel comics are published the same way it did in ours? I know there are radio plays and animated shows that mirror some of the early superhero media in our world, but does Sentinel comics get the same major interconnected cinematic universe that some real-world comic publishers have been able to produce in our 2000s and 2010s? Or does something of that scope never quite make it to the big screen? I'd love to hear any reasoning for why an SCCU would or wouldn't have been produced.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've talked about this a bunch.
But it's okay. It's a fair question.
Yeah.
In the Sentinel Comics metaverse, yes, it gets to be that level of mainstream, but not in the way that you're describing it.
Yeah,
it gets
they
to be
don't
that level
do
of
live-action movies.
Entirely through animated stuff. And if you're like, well, that doesn't seem reasonable, the Into the Spider-Verse movies are like, when those happened, Adam and I went, see, there you go, proof that it can be done.
You should just be making the MCU like that. You should be making
that's a different podcast. That's a different podcast, Adam.
Whatever.
Right.
Sure. But
our point is, what happened in the Sentinel Comics universe is actual good animated stuff was made that actually had the amount of like market impact that Into the Spider-Verse did. And to be fair, we posited that it could be done like that at that level of quality before Spider-Verse happened by several years.
It's true.
It's true. And then when Spider-Verse happened, we're like, yeah, that's what we said the whole time.
I told you so.
Why weren't you listening to us?
Yeah.
But that level of quality of like actual like directorial, sound editing, video editing, music, like everything, and those took over the pop culture in a way that similar to the MCU in our world, but animated. So
yeah, and can go indefinitely because they don't have to rehire actors. Whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Question number 2.
But you bet there's nerd rage whenever they replace a voice actor. They're like, it's different.
Sure. Yeah, but like
way easier.
Not as much as the face changing.
No, for sure. Like, way easier.
Yeah. Question number 2 is admittedly an Oblivion question, although I certainly hope it reaches you before Adam is on his deathbed. I hope so too. One of the most interesting things to me about the Sentinel Comics publishing history is that in the metaverse, Cape Comics start in the 40s and build up to a huge multiverse shattering event in 2016, whereas in our corner of the multiverse, Cape Comics started in the 20s and built up to a huge multiverse shattering event in 1986. Because our Oblivion event happened nearly 40 years ago, our publishers have gone on to produce several events of similar or greater scope to that first one, including some direct sequels. My question here is, did Sentinel Comics ever publish an event as ambitious as Oblivion? Perhaps Infinite Oblivion, Final Oblivion, Oblivions? I understand if those events would happen further down the multiverse timeline than you care to cover at the moment, but I was curious if you had any thoughts on it. Thanks for the great stories and the even greater than games. I love the show, and I can't wait to hear your answers. Yours, Thockley, Zane Holloman.
Okay. So the answer is that would be telling.
Right?
Yeah. At the point that Sentinel Comics would publish an event as ambitious as Oblivion, it is not by the year 2025.
Right.
It's further in the future.
What I can tell you is that Sentinel Comics is decidedly less event-driven than modern comics.
Yeah.
That, like, there's something broke in the late 80s, early 90s in...
It was a speculator's market.
No, not that. That broke also.
Okay.
Yeah. But in the way that it actually, like, really ramped up around the end of the 90s, that they kind of just shifted everything into events. And really, like, the full changeover was with Civil War.
Sure.
Civil War
after
happened,
Civil War, you're right. After Civil War, because then there was Fear itself, and then it was this, and there was Avengers versus X-Men.
Avengers, AVX. Yeah. It's just
everything was an event.
Everything is an event after that. It's non-stop events. It goes one into the next.
There's none of the comic by comic continuity, just stories. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it's gone now, basically. It's all just event-driven stuff. Everything has event branding on it. It's awful, and we don't do that with Sentinels.
Correct. Okay, great. Let's go to the chat. Stupidiot writes, there was some confusion about the Prime War and Vertex Mangroves in last week's episode. So I went back and checked the Vertex episodes and the for-profit preview material that detailed Mangrove. The Mangrove in Prime War was stated to be the Earth Spirit Mangrove, not the one from the Vertex timeline. The Mangrove in Sentinel Tactics, however, was from Vertex. I assume this was because originally he was going to be in the for-profit set before being moved over to the Progress and Conquest expansion of the Prime War set. Anyways, with all that cleared up, there's one thing I was still wondering about Mangrove from my letter. Existing, very old material seems to suggest that Mangrove began interacting with young Vanessa Long at around the time of the Vengeance event. This seems very early considering that we hadn't heard about any outcome of that until 20 years later at the end of the multiverse. I was wondering, is this still accurate? If so, what is Mangrove doing in all that time? Is there any sign of progress shown from this before the RPG/Vertex era? And if not, around what time does it actually occur? I will definitely be submitting the Dispiration Earth Spirit Mangrove suggestion for an episode. In fact, I already have a few times. Actually, next month, my birthday, April 29th, just so happens to fall on a Tuesday, so hint, hint, judge. I don't know how to end this letter, so rah, Mangrove, rah. Okay, so first off, great. Please submit that Dispiration Earth Spirit Mangrove because that's an episode that we would enjoy doing. Second, the story that says, hey, Mangrove was interacting with young Vanessa Long around the time of the Vengeance event is a retcon. When that story was told, it was intentionally being like, hey, this thing happened with Mangrove back in the past. No, it never showed up in comics. We're telling you about it now. Secretly, unbeknownst to you, readers, this whole time Mangrove was interacting with young Vanessa Long. Did this happen in the main continuity line? No, we never saw it. Never happened. Didn't happen. It was a thing that later, to do the Vertex stuff, to do the Prime War stuff, there was like, we're going to add in this detail that is a retcon. And there's nothing to say it couldn't have happened. There's no indication that this wasn't going on, just no proof that it was. And so this is the right way to create news story hooks. It's where you look at a thing and be like, hey, this whole time X could have been happening and it wouldn't have actually disrupted anything. So just say it's been happening this whole time rather than having something that starts right now if you want to do a thing. This is how you do historical fiction. And so that is historical fiction that existed with those other versions of Mangrove, but not a thing that we've seen with Mangrove and Vanessa Long in the main Sentinel Comics, in the main multiverse continuity. It could be happening. Time will tell, who can say.
Sanguine Squid Sylvie writes, greetings, Adam, Sentinels, and G. Christopher. So Amelia outs Maya's secret identity to a bunch of villains in the April's Fool storyline. A lot of villains. What comes of that? Are there any long-lasting repercussions from Maya getting outed as the Wraith to a bunch of baddies? If things went back to the status quo, was it given a satisfying resolution or just hand-waved away? Similarly, does Amelia ever attempt to out Maya at any other points in their history? If she does, how does Maya manage to keep her identity secret again? If Amelia doesn't, why not? It feels like leaking the Wraith's identity would be a great way to throw Maya's life into disarray, at least for a little bit.
Same as it ever was. Many people, not a lot, but more than 2, have revealed the Wraith's identity as Maya Montgomery. Mm-hmm. And then every time it's really like, no, I don't know why people keep saying this. There's no way that the Wraith is Maya Montgomery. Look, here they both are at the same time. Can't be that. Mm-hmm. Look, here's so much. It's so easy to create so much proof. It's really hard to prove or counterfactual. It's so easy to create so much proof that the Wraith and Maya Montgomery are not the same person. Yeah. Even if you're like, oh, we've got the Wraith right here and she's all tied up and we're going to unmask her. Look, it's Maya Montgomery. Oh yeah, but see that was actually a shape-shifting alien. Or whatever. So every time Maya Montgomery is outed as the Wraith, something comes along to conclusively prove that it's not.
Right.
Now.
Easily.
Now, the one that never comes up, not never, is like the most conclusive proof that Maya Montgomery is the Wraith, is sitting on someone's desk.
It's true.
Uninteracted with.
Uninteracted with, yep.
And that one is also Amelia Twain. That was misinformation. Set that situation up, and nothing comes of it. But anyway, yeah, it does create problems for the Wraith and for Maya Montgomery, and then it's resolved. And then Comics forgets about it for a while, and then several years go by, and then someone outs her. What's more interesting to me is when people who are not Maya Montgomery get outed as the Wraith. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, this thing happened, and we figured out that so and so is the Wraith, and it was like. Who's it? Fascinating.
All right. Yeah.
Rex Steelskin writes, has Darkwatch ever been to space? If so, how and why did they go? Adam, I don't think we have a single Darkwatch issue in space.
I don't think we do.
We send Prime Wardens to space. We send everybody to space. And individual members of Darkwatch have been to space. Not all of them, though.
No.
I don't think there's a single Darkwatch issue in space.
I don't think so. Yeah.
The closest you could get is you could do something like on the Wagner Mars base with Darkwatch, but I don't think it happens.
But I don't think that happens either.
It certainly doesn't happen in the Darkwatch book.
Yeah. The closest that happens is Cosmic Contest. All of Darkwatch is
all of Darkwatch goes to space.
Yeah. So there you go.
But is Cosmic Contest does it even count as space?
Sort of it does, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of off-theme people in space, does Fanatic need a spacesuit for being in space?
Not if she believes
she doesn't believe she does.
Nope.
The line, somebody saying something to Fanatic and her saying, I don't believe I do, offhandedly is such a power. It was like,
geez. Okay. Slyduck writes, just listen to the Myriad episode. Christopher made fun of Adam for calling the ceiling the roof because he was in a building, so he would be pointing at the bottom part, not the top. Look how far he's fallen. This is clearly a ceiling he's climbing on, not a roof.
In this case,
gotcha.
When you're climbing on a thing that's upside down, it's called roof climbing. But you're right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. You're right, though. Frag writes, Hail writers, just wondering, did Grimm ever do Les Mis? Sounds right for causing pain in the hearts of heroes. Cordially, Frag. P.S. I think that Bard might be interested in the response to this question. Did Grimm? I don't
think Grimm did Les Mis. I think that the purview of Grimm for comics is a lot more fairy tale area and famous. Les Mis is a famous story, but probably younger audience literary canon in general.
Yeah,
it's more generalist. Les Mis is kind of like I don't think a lot of generalist literature readers get to Les Mis.
Here's the problem with Les Mis.
It's a very dense book.
Here's the problem with Les Mis. The way to do Les Mis is the musical.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't go as well on page on comics.
Yeah.
So comics are not great at musicals. There's definitely comics that do musical-esque things and you're like, "Oh, I see what's going on here." But it's kind of a deep cut, deep dive sort of thing. It asks a lot of the reader, which is generally a thing that when it works, pays off really well with comics, but isn't usually the way to do it.
Yeah, it tells simpler stories is the answer for Grimm.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I don't think that Grimm ever does Les Mis.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Stupidiot writes, has Guys ever tried to court the reader in a Valentine's issue? I don't think he's tried to court the reader. I think he's been like, well, of course, you're my Valentine. Like he'll like, I'm your favorite.
Yeah.
Like he's that sort of thing, but not like, will you go out with me? Like not. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see a Guy's issue in which he like ends it by saying to the reader, would you be my Valentine? Like,
sure.
But
yeah, I don't think there's one just like addressed at the reader the whole time.
No. Yeah.
Maurice Linden writes, so I could see one person besides Fanatic being interested in Ra, and that's obviously Citizen Dawn. Was anything ever done with that? I don't think that things were not done with it. Like, I think that there is a room for that story if someone
Ra and Citizen Dawn.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that it
like that's
yeah.
That actually makes a lot more sense than a lot of things people suggest. So
yep.
Yeah.
Pseudonym writes, a while ago, you did some VA casting for the Metaverse animated materials. Would you want any desperation appearances of characters to use the same VA or change based on universe? It depends on the universe of the character. Some things...
It also depends on the voice actor.
Sure, that's true.
Because sometimes voice actors can pull off like a different version of a character pretty easily, and sometimes they can't. Yeah. So
unfortunately, the answer is it's entirely situational, both for the voice actor, for the character, and for the universe. Like, I could see the Extremerverse be fun to cast all the same voice actors if they can do it, and you have the occasional voice actor who's not as good at it, and you lean into it, and you're like, come on, you got to be extreme. Like, ah! And like, that works sometimes. Mr. Fox.
Mr. Fox, Multiverse Sleever writes, why do you two like to turn my favorite support characters into Freedom 5 villains? First Amelia, now Dana. Who's next? Brianna?
Don't tempt me.
Yeah, don't tempt us.
Brianna is easy.
That's an easy one to do,
right there.
Yep.
All right.
She already has a villain nickname.
Delete this recording. We're going to do an episode right now.
Oh my gosh.
Brianna Crime Hawk.
Crime Hawk. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Churro writes, can you lay out Akasha's timeline a bit? Okay, well, first off, thousands and thousands of years ago.
Oh my God.
We know she's presented as a generic Earth spirit in her first appearance, according to the spreadsheet. So when does the whole antagonism with the virtuosos and connection to the void establish itself?
The 70s.
Was the longer story about like, she was a spirit of the earth, and then she became corrupted by the void. She absorbed a bit of the void, and that made her into this other thing. Like, that's told later. That is a much
But she's an antagonist for Argent Adept in the 70s.
Right. But in that's the 80s retelling. The big 80s story where then she kills Argent Adept and where she defeats Argent Adept and leads to the formation of the Prime Wardens. Mm-hmm. That's that story. That is when she's in the 70s, she's like, ancient earth spirit, rocks and trees. Okay, great, good enough. So hopefully that gives you the
Dr. B writes, did La Commodora ever offer to take Chrono Ranger back to the final wasteland? Did he ever ask her to? Did they ever try to go only to find themselves unable to get there? Right. I can imagine someone thinking it might be a good idea to bring him back, either to return to his old job or to let poor Khan know what happened to him.
Yes, like right off the bat, he's like, this is fine, but we got to go get Khan. He's stuck at the end of time. Put Khan on this cool boat you've got and get him out of the worst time ever. And then that's like, oh no, we can't sail past a certain point in time. Something has happened.
So that contradicts something that we've said, which is that you can still go to the final wasteland because it's a staggered timeline. It's not past, like you're not actually going past Oblivion. You're going to because the timelines don't all line up.
Right. No, but Chrono Ranger was cut off from Khan. It was cut off from Khan and the cat,
right?
Because that's why we had to do all the stuff.
We see the library and we see stuff in the final wasteland after Chrono Ranger is already on La Commodora.
Sure, no, it's fine
on the ship.
But the point is that Chrono Ranger is cut off from the final wasteland and cannot go there from the moment he's on the ship, and that's why she has to connect his arm and his stuff to the ship, and he doesn't get reconnected until the Rook City moment.
Right. I'm just saying that's not why. It's not because of Oblivion.
No, I don't think it is because of Oblivion. Or rather, okay. I think it is because of Oblivion, but we don't know that at the moment. But I think that when he's like, hey, we've got to go to do this thing, and she's like, something is wrong and we cannot. Like, we can go a lot of different places, but something is weird and we can't go there. And the like that is part of the process of figuring things out.
Okay, but what I'm saying is I don't think it's because it's past Oblivion. It's because it's not. It's
that it's for it is that it's because of the shattering of the timelines.
Yeah, it's because of the
which is still because of Oblivion. Past is because of Oblivion, but not chronologically past Oblivion.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, because the Oblivion isn't the thing that creates the final wasteland. Obviously, because if so, then there is no final wasteland.
Right.
Yeah. So the answer is not there is no future for this timeline. The answer is the shattering of the timelines.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, okay, yes. the time stream is no longer navigable in the same way. It's messy.
Right.
And that leads us to both the pursuing of other La Capitans and also the doing desperation stuff. Walking Target writes, I understand the far future story you guys told weeks ago touched on a generation where the legacy line diverges due to twins born. This coincides with the long-held theory that I've had about the explanation of why Galactic Strike Force has metahumans instead of humans, that a multiple birth splits the legacy line, diluting the number of powers each had, but increasing the number of powered people in the generation. And over thousands of years, this results in basically everybody having some power or other. Can you confirm, deny the theory, and or talk more about the connections between Sentinel Comics and Galactic Strike Force? Okay, there's no official connection between Sentinel Comics and Galactic Strike Force other than we created both, so there you go. Mm-hmm. And we had posited, this is the thing that you and I had talked about, we posited years and years ago, like, oh, well, the metahumans are metahumans because there's technology things and also superpowers things that happened in the past that led to everybody having some technology and some superpower as part of them. So that is like absolutely the intended nod, but it's not a nod that exists in any sort of metaverse. It's just an us
Galactic
nod.
Strike Force is like has some nice little nods to Sentinels, and those are intentional, but they are not like canonical to Sentinels in any way that matters.
Right. The fact that both have laser dragons is coincidental.
Yes. Brian, but spelled wrong, says, how does each of the Freedom 5 celebrate Valentine's Day? I think you need to submit a topic for
with
that
a person that they love.
Yep.
Oddball Paladin writes, Mr. Fixer was dead until Oblivion. True.
Yep. Got him.
Yeah. Got him. Yeah. Tavriel, student of knowledge, writes, Valentine's questions. Do Felicia and her male friend who knows her secret and helps her out, do they ever get together? I don't think so. I think there's this implication of like, there's.
What's no, up? I don't think they do. Okay. No.
Okay. Was Paul Legacy given a short-lived romantic interest before his to-be wife? No, actually, not at all. We get him as a kid, and then we get the first appearance of him as like being Legacy, and we meet Emily Parsons in that episode. It's like, or in that issue. It's like it's right off the bat. Mm-hmm. Does Alpha have any substantial romance plots? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought we talked about a big one on the air.
We talked about a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lord Wolfhunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does any writer ever try and fail to break up Tachyon and her wife before being turned on by the fans? Probably.
I don't know. Again,
by the time
I think that if there were if there were a Tachyon book, then that would have the likelihood of that would be a lot higher.
Yeah.
But like you have very, very limited time in Freedom 5 and Injustice Comics. So
does Fanatic ever have any romance plots after Ra's death up to the current day?
No.
Mr.
Fox writes, my friend Emma wanted me to ask this follow-up to her Tempest call-out letter. Was there a reason why Tempest was never completely written out of comics? Was there an editorial mandate? Did people think that was a bad return to form, but mine will be good? Was there an editor that just really liked him?
Tempest was a well-liked and like top-selling character, even when written poorly.
Mm-hmm.
He was.
I mean, and he kind of was written out of comics in that he didn't have any solo stories in Cosmic Tales during that.
That's true. He had a couple, but no, you're right. Not any solo stories. That's right. So the trick is that like, yes, there's people that are like, oh, I'll do a better job at this. But like Adam said earlier, the telephone game of like the voice that had been created by a generation of Tempest writers was a bad voice. And so it had to be like rebooted. But so there's people that are like, oh, I think it, but even still, the point is that Tempest was a character who was iconic and had been around a long time and had a cool look and had a cool story, and people could be like, oh, a Tempest story. I want to get that Tempest story. I like Tempest. There are people who are Tempest fans, even in this era of mediocre writing, because of the promise of who/what Tempest was. Yeah. And then you read the book and you're like, well, it's kind of disappointing, but it's still Tempest. Like,
I think that like he's just kind of relegated to support character of Prime Wardens he's just like there. Like not like he doesn't help in the fights, but yeah, that's the closest he gets to be completely written out. Is it's just like, well, we'll just put him like he's here, I guess. That's
Brian writes, if the Bloodsworn Colosseum landed in the Court of Blood, could Bathory steal the blood force from Kargra, or are they on different wavelengths despite the name? They are on different wavelengths.
they are.
It's not that she could steal
Sworn Force also.
No, it's not.
It's not just the Blood Force.
Yeah, it's the Blood Force, and Bloodsworn are affected by the Blood Force. It's not the Bloodsworn Force.
Really? I thought that
Bloodsworn is the name of the Force.
I thought it was. Well, whatever.
Yeah, but
I don't think that it had. I didn't think that it had like a canon name that people just call it the Bloodsworn Force. But
so it's called Bloodsworn in a particular specific thing. That don't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay. That's all right.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. So the thing, but that said, Blood Countess Bathory would be able to feel it and would be able to be like, oh, that I want that. I'm gonna, and like she could maybe. I think there'd be an interesting story of her like trying to like tempt, finagle magic control of the blood sworn power. But it's not, the trick is the blood, it's not like it has blood in the name, but it's not just about blood.
Right. No, it's more about your blood is sworn to this thing.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
It's not I am blood and you swear to the blood. That's why I don't think it's the blood force.
Right. Now, the trick is there's an interesting Disparation story in here that I quite like of Kargra landing Bloodsworn Colosseum, blood swears Bathory. And Bathory goes, excellent, and is backdoored into, now that I'm Bloodsworn, actually everything that is Bloodsworn is connected to me, and it like uses that to usurp control.
Yeah. Yeah. The Court of Bloodsworn.
Court of Bloodsworn.
Yeah. I submit it.
Yeah, that's a good
Maurice Linden writes, if Fnatic believed she was pregnant, would she actually be? And would the child inherit the traits she thinks it would? And would it be stable after birth?
Yep.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Yeah.
Easy.
Davriel writes, wasn't there a chocolate brand advertised in one of the Megalopolis arts? Funny Bunny? Is there ever a Valentine's plot significantly involving that brand, not just their chocolates? No. I know what you're talking about, and no.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I think this is the last one.
Oh my gosh, is it?
Go back. Yeah, I think so. Pricey Provinces. Right, so it was cool seeing you at Pieces. How did fixing that thing there go?
Okay, so when I was at Pieces, Jim and Laura, the owners of Pieces, had a situation where the lighting on their bar, the wires were run in the wrong way. It was the soft launch of it. The grand opening was that weekend, but they were trying to fix it, and I was like, I can do this. And so Jim and I spent like half an hour doing a construction project in the corner by the bar while there was a party going on, and
all right,
people are like, You came to this like opening party and you're like on the ground doing construction work. I'm like, you bet I am. Like,
oh my God,
it was great. I had I had the best time. I was like, this is the best bar party I've ever been to. I got to do construction work. I got to strip some wires and rerun an electrical line. It was fantastic. And the answer is it worked perfectly. And now the lighting is exactly correct.
Nice. From how far away can setbacks luck curse have an effect on something?
Whew. So here's a fun thing, Adam.
Yeah.
If you and I were Setback and Expatriate, which one do you want to be?
Yeah, I'll be Setback.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Could something you do on this call mess something up over here for me?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think it's line of sight.
I think it is line of effect. I don't think it's line of sight. I don't think.
But I'm affecting the space that you're in.
Right. I don't think he has to be looking at it. I think a terrible car crash can happen behind him, and he's like,
right. But I could be saying something here, and because like this, I am affecting your space.
Yeah.
Here's
a fun question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, again, we're Setback and Expatriate. You're Setback, and we're using the phone app Snapchat.
Mm-hmm.
You've recorded a video and sent it to me. I am watching that video. Can a bad thing happen to me?
I mean, I think a bad thing can happen, but I don't think that he can cause that. I think it has to be live.
No, he doesn't cause it.
No, I think that his luck has to be live. I don't think you can record his luck.
This is the question. If somebody's watching an archival footage of Setback, can they be like, oh, shoot. No, but here's the thing. Imagine somebody's got archival footage of Setback and then they like spill their coffee on it. And like, oh, no. That sounds right.
Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
I absolutely see it's like, oh, we've got all this evidence that this hero Setback took photos of this thing and mailed it in, and everything's fine. But then like the night before the court case, the evidence falls into a shredder. And it's like, Setback.
Yeah. Well, all right. Maybe, yeah.
I think it's like, I think it's like sphere of influence.
Yeah. Well, and I can also think of a specific villain that could use that very well. So
not just Kismet.
No, like, being able to record it.
Oh
like,
my God. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Price of Profits finishes. Loving the new update to Darkest Dungeon 2. Have either of you made any more progress on it? I have not. I haven't touched it.
I haven't touched it since the
launch,
update.
Basically.
Since we talked about it that one time and I was excited about it, I haven't played it since then. I want to play it more, and I hear the new update's very cool. But
I just haven't gotten to.
I am bad at playing games.
I'm doing the Marvel Rivals thing, and I'm playing Final Fantasy, and I'm playing Marvel vs. Capcom.
You are good at playing games.
I'm good at playing them.
That's what I've said. I'm not saying that you're. I'm good. You're good at the.
I'm good at getting it done.
You're good at the act of playing games. I am not good at the act of playing games.
Depends on the game, but
when I'm playing a game, I tend to be good at what's going on in the game.
Most games I'm pretty okay at.
Yeah,
I'm learning that I'm bad at some games that I thought I was better at, but. Yeah. All right. I think that's it.
We caught up. We're at modern day. Look at this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shoot. We still have a chunk of letters left in the.
Yeah, we do. We do.
All right. Adam, my second to last letter of the day is from Rogue Tinkerer, who writes, "Greetings, fine fellows of fables and falsehoods. While we all love the characters you've created," good, I'm glad that everyone does, good, "and I understand there are a lot of tropes and archetypes are common and unavoidable, there are some that feel a little too familiar. A guy who changes into green animals. A shadowy vigilante that uses stealth and gadgets to inspire fear in criminals of the worst city. An alien with a name that sounds remarkably similar to a human name, but with some apostrophes. I wanted to know what made you decide to stick so close to certain quote-unquote real comic characters. Was it to help players quickly pick a character they'd be familiar with, or as a tribute to characters you liked? To be clear, this isn't a call-out. I'm just curious because you guys are more than creative enough, as we've all seen. Regards, Rogue Tinker." Okay, let me talk about those three instances. Guy who changes into green animals, I only vaguely know what you're talking about.
Oh, I know very well what
I know you do, Adam.
Yeah.
But I don't.
No, so that was kind of a function of his costume.
That's right. So with Naturalist, Naturalist started with the myth, and it was like, oh, let's tell the myth of somebody being cursed and going through this. Like the backstory of Naturalist was like one of the first things that was written about this myth of Akash Buddha coming to a person and changing them, and that person going through the eras. Like let's here's this cool Akash Buddha story. Let's turn this into a character. And Michael Conte was born, and all these things were made, and then he has a green costume, and he changes into green animals. And I, not until later, did I become aware of a different character, and it's fine. I'm not too worried about that one. I want to go to the third topic now. An alien with a name that sounds remarkably similar to a human name with some apostrophes. Great. Tell me other similarities between that character and the character, between Tempest and the character from mainstream comics with a name with apostrophes. It sounds like a
right. Yeah.
I guess they fly, except the Tempest doesn't really fly.
The Tempest kind of just launches himself.
Yeah, it doesn't really fly. But so sure, yeah, we did the trope thing, but I would call that actually more of a fantasy trope than a comics trope.
It's a pretty common trope beyond just that.
Right. That's not the character that I would point at. Yeah, anyway. Wraith and Batman are very similar. Yeah, that is our most on the nose one, and we did it on purpose. We were like, okay, hold on. In this first set, which at the time we weren't even thinking of it as a first set, we were just like, okay, we're making this game. We need to have some characters that people look at and go, oh, I get it. Yeah, I see what's going on here.
Yeah, every character in that is designed to be like, I understand this at a glance.
Yeah.
I understand what this is.
In the original first set, not in the new core game. Because in Definitive Edition core game, like you got Argent Adept and you're like, I can explain it quickly, but you don't necessarily recognize it from comics.
Yeah.
And others as well. But the goal was to have some very recognizable tropes that still stood alone, that still did their own thing. And then to take them in different directions, which I feel like we've successfully done over the years. But you're getting to hear, like the soonest we recorded any of this podcast was in 2017. 7 years after we first started writing these stories.
That's true.
So anyway, Thank you for your letter, Rogue Tinker.
Yeah, thank you. Eggbird writes, Dear Christopher, and maybe some Adam.
Oh, right. This letter.
How do you know when
I did this to myself.
Oh, you did this?
I could have deleted this letter, but I wanted to talk about it.
How do you know when your gamer expansion is done? All right, well, for me, that's easy. Is the art list complete? Cool. Bye. Have fun with the rest of this. As I write this, I'm eagerly awaiting an expansion that's running a bit behind schedule. I'm fine with that. I know things take as long as they take, and GTG has long since proven their commitment to putting out quality products, even if it takes a little longer. I'm confident the products will be up when they're ready. But as a creator, how do you know when it's ready? I imagine the process is more art than science, but how does it work? Is it one of balance, wrong character feel? Do playtesters rate games on certain levels of fun or difficulty, which you tweak until you land at some target number? Would you be willing to share some examples for previous products about what last little bits took the longest to iron out, or seemingly innocuous line of text that ended up being hugely important to a deck? Just curious about the process behind Sentinels and Multiverse testing. Eggbird.
The process is not more art than science. It is a bit more science than art. But there's a lot of art in it as well.
Yeah.
Feel is a big one. We start with feel and we end with feel.
Mm-hmm.
In between the start with feel and end with feel, there's a lot of numbers. And so you get to a point of like, okay, run these things and make them work. And now we get to a place where things are mechanically working. Because when they start, you have a good feel and a dream and some hopes. And then those things start mechanically going and testing. And you get to the point where you're like, now things are mechanically working. But then you got to be like, okay, but do they feel right? Oh, right. Now we got to push back towards feel again. Like it's done when it's done. And it is more... The testing process is more of a science, but the feeling that it's done is more of an art.
Yeah. The testing process is also really advantageous because you can go, hey, try to break this so that we can avoid it being broken.
Yeah, right.
Also.
Yeah. But I actually never give the mandate of try and break this. Breaking will happen. It's
No, I'm not saying that you say that. I'm saying that that sort of thing happens, right. And that eliminates a lot of design space when it's broken.
Yeah. And seriously, about what last little bit takes the longest to iron out. Let me tell you, every project, the final 5% of work takes as much time as everything leading up to it. Like that's the end of work of actually putting everything together, actually making everything. Finishing is starting is just throw things out there, good to go. Middling is the work that it takes, the grind of it. And then finishing is painstaking and arduous, but also where you have the ability to put things together. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, once I do the initial thing with him, we come up with everything that's going to be in it. I get updates as it goes, but I have a really nice spreadsheet that a friend of mine made for me that I can plug everything in, and it puts it in chronological order, and it shows me the surrounding cards so that I know that I'm drawing the right things. And then I just click next when I'm done with this, and it tells me what the next thing to draw is. And that's how I work. And then when I hit the end of that, I'm usually done.
Yeah.
This time I had some things that we needed to work out later. And I fixed those things up.
I would disagree with that, Adam. I think that this is actually always the case, that you finish the art and you deliver all the arts to me. And then when I'm entering that end stage, I'm like, oh, hey, here's a single digit number of things that either need to be tweaked or redrawn or a new art. There's always a little chunk of things at the end.
There's always a little bit. Yeah. But not more than a few hours of work at that point.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, at the end of the process, we'll always have less than 1 week's worth of Adam's work time to be like, okay, hold on, this changed, that changed, fill in this, fill in that. Or we'll put a thing on a card and be like, oh, shoot, looking on the card, that needs to get shoved around. So that's just the fact of the matter.
Right, yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I hope that helps. But I will say, Adam, at this point, as of yesterday, everything has gone through editing and is delivered back to layout. So layout is giving me next week, with the exception of the rule book. I just got the rule book, and so I'm going to all day Monday is rule book day for me, and then everything will be in layout's hand, and then I'll get a second set of editing to make sure that the edits that I gave them did not, in the process of making those edits, no new errors were introduced, because that can always happen. And then we're good to go. So we're so close. We're so close.
Great.
Yeah. Closest we've ever been. All right, my last question of the day is from Beck Phillips, who writes, "Greetings, creators. I don't have much time, so I'll skip the silly gimmicks. Have you already chosen names for future Definitive Edition expansions? Of course, I'm not asking to learn them. I'm just wondering what you've made a name for. Thank you for your time.
It's presuming that there are future expansions.
Yeah, we're done. Dispersion's the end. It's the disparate realities.
If we were going to make any future expansions, we would have thought of the names of them already.
Yes, of course. We would have thought the names. We'd know who all the heroes and villains. We'd know the variant cards and the events. We'd know so many things about them if we were ever going to do any more.
If we were going to do them.
Yeah.
If such a thing could happen.
Yeah, too bad.
Yep. Last letter of the day is from a quote-unquote angel on your shoulder.
Yeah. It's a good way to end the day.
Yeah. Good evening, trusting friends. It is I, your creative muse, here to inspire you to more tales of daring do and virtuous verisimilitude.
Yeah.
And all I got to say is, in recent times, you've been doing such a good job. General Geist, Death Fiend, the Neon Necromancer, new characters that have just lit a fire under your fan base. And that's not even mentioning Dante Serpenta himself. Why hold yourself back from riding the wave of popularity for these new creations? Why not strike while the iron's hot? Oh, sure, a dozen episodes in a row back-to-back would surely be too much to ask and have diminishing returns, but a follow-up episode or two certainly wouldn't go amiss while the excitement's still fresh. And if a few extra decks slither their way into production to the delight of your most adoring fans, what's the harm? I think it would propel you to even greater heights. You can trust me.
That's a trap.
That is a trap. Yeah, that's a trap. That's a trap. That's a trap.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks. What's the harm? Our sanity and well-being.
What's the harm?
Yeah. Look, we're already struggling with this. You don't have to debate us. Like, you know, this is something we have a problem with to begin with. Did you think that the moment General Guys came out, we weren't like, can we change our entire plan? All right.
That's a classic Brian letter. Okay. Adam, you want to talk about a cover?
No, I do not.
Thanks everybody so much for listening.
Thank you, as always, to our patrons. We could not do the show without you, especially these live shows.
These live shows would just be dead without you.
They'd be dead shows. DOA. If you'd like to join the Patreon, head on over to patreon.com/theletterspage.
What?
And you can join and you can be part of these live ones. Once a month, we do them. And they're a fun time. They're a fun time.
I have fun. Did you have fun?
I do.
Good.
I do have fun. Yeah. Yeah. Next week, February 25th.
It's a creative process.
February 10. A creative process of Other Science of Oblivion. All right.
Like Sever. We'll make up Sever.
We'll make up Sever again.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Yeah. Sever.
What possible reason could we have for wanting to do this creative process?
Adam, it's not up to us. It was submitted.
Oh, okay.
It's submitted by listeners. It's voted on by listeners. These episodes aren't about what we want.
That's true. That's true. Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Not Noxious the Unchosen.
Oh, rude.
Great. All right. Anything else?
Don't forget, just send in your letters about the various topics.
Brush your teeth.
Drink water.
Yep.
And call your mom. Call your mom.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable making that assessment for everybody.
Oh, no. For sure not.
But if you feel like you should call your mom, then you should.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, everybody. Until next time, bye.
Bye.
The Letters Page is a weekly podcast featuring fiction from the world of Sentinel Comics, written by me, Christopher Bedell,
and illustrated by me, Adam Repertaro. We're also your hosts.
The music that you hear was composed by me, Jean-Marc Giffen, and is used courtesy of Handelabra Games.
The song, Christopher and Adam Reading Letters to You, was written and performed by Christopher's brother, Anthony Bedell. The show is edited and produced by me, Trevor Casterline. Thanks for listening and supporting the multiverse.
Christopher and Adam reading letters to you. Christopher and Adam. Christopher and Adam reading letters from you. Let 'em read 'em at you. Let 'em read 'em at you. Oh, Christopher and Adam. Christopher and Adam reading letters to you. Christopher and Adam. Christopher and Adam.
I think of Tachyon as being in like early 30s.
Not Tachyon, Visionary.
Sorry. Burp.